Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Crucible. I'm your host, Andrew Wilson, and tonight we have a great debate for you between Resident Sleeper and Joseph Suaidan. It's going to be excellent, I think. I think the topic's going to be excellent because it couldn't fit in the cue card exactly, how these guys would probably want it framed, just so that you kind of understand. They're going to be going over some very critical Orthodox issues, I think, during the course of this debate. It's going to be excellent. Before we get into it, though, make sure that you like, share, subscribe. We are on the backup channel because the primary channel had 2 strikes from debates that were done like a year and a half ago. They were total bullshit, but whatever. It is what it is. Until those fall off, we would like to monetize this channel. So we do appreciate that. We appreciate all the thumbs up, all the great channel support. At the top, you'll notice that the Dono chat link is pinned there. If you want to send in and have a super chat read, go ahead and donate there, and I will get to the super chats. We will be taking call-ins tonight. Probably, I would guess, right around the 10:20, 10:30-ish marker is when we'll start the call-in segment. Don't know for sure, but somewhere roughly we'll give you the cue. The mods will put the link in the chat to the Discord. For anybody who wants to call in, they'll vet you. They'll get you a link, and you can call in. With that, we'll be right back with both of our debaters. This thing. Let's do it. Get some excitement going. Get your tomato arms ready. I keep saying that one day I'm going to hire the like a professional voice impersonator who can do the boxing, the boxer announcer guy's voice, you know what I mean? And in this corner, weighing in at 125 pounds, I want to get just once, a voice impersonator to do the announcement, just because I think it would be funny. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into this debate tonight. This is going to be, I can already tell. I can already tell where this is going to go, and I'm looking forward to it. Joseph Suaidan, why don't you take a second before we get started? Tell everybody where they can find you, and just take a brief moment to tell them a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name's Deacon Joseph Suaidan. I can be found most easily at the website nftu.net. I've used it to run news stories about true orthodoxy and ecumenism since 2004. It also is being merged into our video channel. You may have noticed if you go to the Orthodox Apologetics channel, it is being branded as NFTU. We're bringing that all together for a cohesive experience. As for me, I first came to Orthodoxy in 1997, I should say, is the moment where something happened and I knew that I had to become Orthodox. And it's been quite a ride ever since, a very interesting one. I think that's about it. I've got a wife, I've got kids, I've got a dog, cat,
Well, I mean, it's awesome that you have a dog, but cats are ontologically evil, much like wasps. I just want to let you know that. Moving over to the resident sleeper side, resident sleeper, take a moment, tell everybody where they can find you, and just briefly a little bit about yourself. We already know that you sound like Count Chocula. You play the accordion. We know that much, but maybe you can give us a little bit more.
Hi, I'm Resident Sleeper. I'm an Orthodox layman with a background in Muslim apologetics. And I play accordion on Instagram. It's garbage. You don't have to watch. But I'm here to debate Mr. Suaidan tonight.
All right. Thank you so much. Now, we did discuss backstage that Joseph will be going first. He has 7 minutes on the clock. I am going to set the clock right now for that 7 minutes, and he has a presentation that he has. Let me pull the presentation up if you're ready for that. Are you ready for that, Joseph? Okay. And your time starts. Go ahead.
Um, okay, the presentation we're talking about is called The State of the Orthodox Church in the 20th and 21st Centuries: Truth, Lies, Distortions, and Clarifications. I'm now going to switch to that so that I can fully see it and hopefully give you some background and some understanding. For the most part, this presentation is for the audience. It is not for my opponent. However, my opponent is free to use or learn from it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is discuss the basics. How does one handle heresy in Orthodoxy? This is something that's fairly uncontroversial and until recently. People begin by complaining when problems show up, when people begin preaching heresy bareheaded. There are usually various interventions that take place, usually between priests versus the bishops, etc. I think we see this in things like the Arian crisis, etc. Once you are dealing with a bishop that is a known heretic, the next step is non-commemoration. I know in World Orthodoxy, the most recent case of this was during the Havana Declaration between Patriarch Kirill and Pope Francis, where a number of seminarians began non-commemoration. That's also kind of where I think a lot of the people who follow this fighting from within movement, that's where you are, whether you realize it or not. You may be commemorating someone. If you are, though, and you're not really not commemorating, then you're just agreeing with them. Then basically the next step is people try to find bishops to reorganize the synod. And once they've done that, then the synod then can act as the Orthodox Church in a local region and declare people heretical, etc. Um, this is Archbishop Chrysostom I of Athens, Papadopoulos. In 1923, shortly before he changed the calendar, he said, "No autocephalous Orthodox Church can separate itself from the rest and accept the new calendar without becoming schismatic in the eyes of others." A year later, he changed the calendar. The Holy Fathers from Athos and priests who dissented from the innovating hierarchy served the increasing numbers of persecuted faithful during the period until Metropolitan Chrysostom of Florina and others came out of retirement and separated to convene a synod in 1935, which then condemned the calendar change. And from here, we're going to get to a discussion of a tale of two orthodoxies, if we will. In Greece, this is from a letter of Father Ephraim, who would later become Metropolitan Ephraim of Hakhny. He wrote, "In Greece, the real power of the old calendar movement became known during the German occupation. Since the official new calendar church no longer had the support of the government because the Nazis had taken over in persecuting the old calendarists, many had died in prison from starvation or ill treatment, the old calendarists spread like wildfire. In Athens alone, they had 500 tiny chapels and churches, with a priest for every one of them. After the war and return of the government, the persecution was resumed and the movement again slackened. So during the time of Hitler, the true Orthodox were actually free. Meanwhile, we celebrate people who didn't help Christians. Then we get to part two here. Basically, this is on the left is a book review. I'm not going to read the whole thing, although they get it wrong. Mother Maria Skotsova actually died of dysentery, not of the gas chambers. They did that to promote her cultus as a saint. Further, what you'll notice, this is about the Paris school, which, hate to bring it up, but Hitler and the Nazis were suspicious that they were Freemasonic liberals. Strangely, Roquefort was also suspicious that they were Freemasonic liberals, mostly because they were Freemasonic liberals. And as you'll notice, the guys on the right who came from the Paris school are well-known authors in your community because they all ended up leading St. Vladimir Seminary's teachings, and Meyerndorf, Schmemann, Losky, all from the Paris school. So we continue. Romania is just crazy. I mean, you have Miron Cristeu, and that's just a huge mess. As you'll notice, these pictures here on the right, that's an entire village getting arrested for holding to the old calendar. I should mention Patriarch Miron actually wanted to introduce the papal calendar and attempted to, and they were arresting everyone who disagreed. But there's even a point where communists supported the king, so it was a crazy time. But the point is, there were a lot of people being arrested for doing the right thing. Finally, Russia, self explanatory. Fun fact: if you are over the age of 23, you've been alive longer than the Patriarchate of Moscow has been commemorating the new martyrs. The guy on the right, Patriarch Alexis, literally was brought into existence in his offices and as Patriarch simply because of the fact that they needed to fight the Nazis. The guy on the left, St. Joseph of Petrograd, is my namesake and still not on the calendar of the Moscow Patriarchate because he led the Catacomb Church. Well, what do Orthodox Christians do when dealing with heretical hierarchs? They basically, as the canon notes above, they sever themselves from communion with their president because he publicly preaches heresy and with bared head teaches it in the church. Such persons are to be accounted not to canonical penalty, but deemed worthy of honor, for not bishops, but false bishops and false teachers have they condemned, and not fragmented the church's unity with schism, but from schisms and division have they earnestly sought to deliver the church. We know the road core anathema against ecumenism. I hope you all know it. If you don't, please Google it. So, what are you supposed to do when you're dealing with heretical hierarchs? You're supposed to run, not join them. Just in case you didn't get it the first time, you're supposed to run, not pray together with heretics because of the anathema against ecumenism. You're supposed to run, not kiss the Pope's hand. You're definitely not supposed to do this. No, blessing the chrism for a heretical king with some Anglicans, wrong. Just in case you don't believe in the anathema against ecumenism, it's also in the apostolic canons. And here we have bishops lighting menorahs. And finally, one, Laodicea shouldn't join with heretics and schismatics. The guy on the right, this one, should note, however, that this is now a tradition among the ecumenists because of the fact that they're so used to it. They've spent 50 years doing joint prayers with people we used to call heretics. But there's an option for you. If you take a look, believe it or not, there are millions of true Orthodox all over the world who are confessing the faith. They're teaching the Orthodox faith you thought you learned. So for 90% of you listening to this podcast, you didn't know who I was, but you did believe in the seven councils, right? You don't believe that the fourth council or the fifth council is up for debate or discussion. You don't believe David Bentley Hart isn't a heretic. You think he might be one. Become true Orthodox. You've made it this far, and we invite you to do so. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that opening statement. I appreciate it very much. I wish I could have given you another couple of minutes, but to be fair to the platform, was not able to do so. Resident Sleeper, you're going to have the same amount of time. Let me go ahead and reset the clock. You have 7 minutes on the clock. Go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you. As an Orthodox Christian, I believe in the unity of the church that is important. It's important to preserve the teachings of Christ and his apostles. However, I do not support a divisive, exclusive mentality held by my opponent who can so boldly claim from an ahistoric position that they are the only true Orthodox left. In the early church, there were disagreements over various theological and liturgical practices, but they were very ultimately resolved through prayer, dialogue, guidance by the Holy Spirit, and ecumenical synod. However, some groups have taken a very different approach, characterized by isolationism, legalism, and self-righteousness. In the words of Father Seraphim Rose, 1979, he said, "Even when it is not fanatical, the spirit of correctness for its own sake turns out to be fruitless. As an example, I can tell you of a very good friend of ours, one of the zealot fathers of Mount Athos. He is a moderate zealot in that he recognizes the grace of the new calendar sacraments, accepts the blessings of our priests and our church, and the like, but he is absolutely strict when it comes to implying basic zealot principles. Not to have communion with not only bishops whose teachings depart from the Orthodox Church, such as the Patriarch of Constantinople, and not only with anyone who is in communion with him, but with anyone who has communion with anyone who in remote way has communion with him. Such purity is so difficult to attain in our days. Our whole Russian church abroad, for example, is tainted in the eyes by some measures of communion with other Orthodox churches. That he is only in communion with his Orthodox Church and the 10 monks that participate in it on the Holy Mountain. The rest of the Orthodox Church is not pure. Rather than seeking unity and reconciliation, these groups have created new schisms and factions within the Orthodox Church. They have rejected the authority of the ecumenical patriarchs and other Orthodox jurisdictions have instead formed their own communities and hierarchies. Furthermore, some of these groups have become fixated on certain issues, such as the calendar and ecumenism, both of which not new issues. Previous condemnations of calendar changes were based on the changes to the Paschalion. We don't even use the Roman Catholic Paschalion. Or the rules for determining movable feasts, which are dependent on on Pascha. Not to mention the feasts which are also fixed. As Orthodox Christians, we should strive to preserve the unity and integrity of the Church while also being uncompromising in the face of ecumenism, to keep in line with the traditions and practices of the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. We should seek to engage in dialogue while also remaining faithful to our own theological and liturgical heritage. Ultimately, it is for our love for Christ and fellow human beings that guide our actions and attitudes as Orthodox Christians. We should avoid sectarianism and legalism and instead embrace the spirit of unity within the Orthodox Church and humility that Christ exemplified during his earthly ministry and ecumenical councils, a humility which is entirely lost on the true Orthodox. Thank you.
Now, Resident Sleeper, I did want to let you know you still have 3 minutes left on the clock. If you had anything further you wanted to say.
I do not need it.
Okay. Fair enough. Before we open up the floor, gentlemen, and let you get into the debate, I just want to remind everybody who's just now joining, at the very top, you'll find a link to the Dono chat. If you want to ask a question of either of these debaters after the debate is done and they can address the super chats, make sure that you do so. One of the things that's very helpful to do is to stamp, either timestamp or in your message, refer to a portion of the debate that you're talking about, because then they can reference it far easier. A lot of people miss that. And so what happens is I read the super chat and they're like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Well, it's just because the debate goes on for a little while. And then after callers, this is the way that tends to happen. So might be something you guys might want to do. Also, if you want to call in on behalf of either of the debaters or to put them both to the question, tell them both how much they suck or whatever, that's all fine too. Just make sure that you click on the link that the mods will be spamming for when the call-in section comes up. Gentlemen, the floor is open whenever you're ready.
Mr. Suaidan, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Oh, I said everything in the first part. I don't think you actually addressed anything in my intro. So, but if you had questions about my presentation, I'd be glad to hear it.
Sure. Can you tell me why you can break into schism immediately after what you deem heresy? Why is the immediate response to break into schism? I don't understand.
Because of Canon 15 of the Second Synod that I had up on the screen.
I think you're actually misinterpreting that canon as a whole. In fact,
that's nice, but
no,
unfortunately, the interpretation of Saint Nicodemus disagrees with you.
Saint Nicodemus.
Yeah, he made a comment on every one.
This canon
Yes,
is telling
every
guys, hang on. One at a time. I'm okay with a little bit of talking over or cutting in. I think that some of that's appropriate, but don't make it so horrendous that we can't even understand what's going on. So
I just don't like lies.
Yeah, but it's okay. I'm not chastising you specifically, Joseph, or you, Resident Sleeper. It's a fiery debate. I understand that, but we need to at least keep it somewhat coherent for the audience. Go ahead, gentlemen.
Canon 15 does not say that we should completely separate from the church. It tells us to be more like Saint Cyril, who anathematized Nestorius. He maintained that Nestorius was a God-loving minister of the church in his letters to him, where he anathematized him.
Okay, 2 points. The first one is Saint Cyril is not mentioned in Saint Nicodemus's interpretation of Canon 15 of the First Second Synod. The second point is that Saint Cyril was also preparing a council for anathematization and was trying to get the council together to anathematize Nestorius. That's why he's polite.
And
So,
anathemization leads immediately to schism?
if someone commits a heresy, it leads immediately to the fall from grace of God.
A formal heresy? What formal heresy was committed?
It does. Well, okay, let's try this again.
Go on.
It does not say formal heresy in the canon. It says heresy, and specifically says heresy condemned by a council. It does not say an ecumenical council. It simply says a council, because a lot of heresies were local and died out where they were. That's part of the history of the church. It's not like every heresy struck the world. Yugoslavia, up until probably 20 years ago, never made it outside the bounds of Russia. The point is that that's a very weird way to look at things. The point is the church's job locally is to convene councils when somebody is preaching heresy or condemn the heretic. That it's really that simple. And it's not like some great thing. And to say schism from the church, if you're preserving the church from heresy, you're not going into schism. That's the point of the canon.
Mr. Suaidan, when you leave the church, the people who
I didn't leave the church.
Yes, you did. The people
No, I didn't.
The people who care most about.
I disagree. You left
Give him
the
a
church,
moment.
sir.
Give him a moment to respond. Joseph, go ahead.
The people who care most about the issue of ecumenism, your groups, leaving the Orthodox Church, doesn't help the Orthodox Church solve those issues.
I disagree. And you know why?
How?
That's the way we've always done it. We've always broken away from heresy.
Splitting into
That is correct.
Group?
Yes, the entire history of the church is filled with it. Try the Meletian schism for a start.
What
The point is this.
Okay,
this
so
illusion.
Hold on, Mr. Suaidan. In the
yes,
Arian
yes,
crisis,
anonymous.
Wait, resident sleeper, let him respond. Go ahead. Go ahead, Joseph.
The point is this. That has happened historically many times. In the Meletian schism, in the aftermath of Florence, are just two glaring examples of where that happened, where people separated from what was officially the church to protect orthodoxy. And then orthodoxy would
came
succeed.
back to the church.
No, they didn't come back. They were the church. The people who you don't even get it. The people who were the church were not the Unionists. They were not the people who are siding with the Arians. The church is the Orthodox, remember?
During the Arian crisis, Mr. Suaidan, there were only 5 canonical bishops at the time, but they didn't break away. In fact, they stayed within the church.
How many
hold on, please, Mr. Suaidan. And even then, when it comes to the Filioque controversy, for example, another example, 300 years it took for them to deem it a reason to schism. Your church, your tiny sect, does not do that. They left immediately.
Can I respond now?
Go.
Yeah. First off, you're wrong about the Filioque. You read way too many secondary sources. Most of the Filioque interpolations have been found in the 10th and 11th centuries with the rise of the Hildebrandians, who eventually became the Roman Catholic Church. Second off, you're wrong on that. They didn't tolerate the Filioque. They actually considered it heretical, even in the West.
And they deemed it only worth schisming after 300 years of it existing.
But it didn't exist for 300 years is my point.
Yes, it did.
No, it didn't. I'm not going to accept your professor's book when we see actual manuscripts that show that it was interpolated. You're wrong. But let's leave that aside for just a moment, because you said there were only 5 canonical bishops during the Arian crisis. Fun question. How many total official bishops were there?
I don't remember the official number.
Why was it more than 10?
It's 80% of the Orthodox Church at that time. More than 80% was Arian at that time.
Okay, then they weren't the Orthodox Church. That's my point. You just said it.
You said hold on.
Yes, they did.
Where?
They were not in communion with the heretical bishops. That's where Athanasius Contra Mundum comes from, because he was literally in communion with none of them.
Where?
I just said it.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. I explained. You were the one who pointed to the example of 5 bishops, but you said they didn't schism from the church. They weren't in communion with the Arians, but the official church
They remained
definitely
within the
was.
church to fix it from within. The Holy
They didn't.
Orthodox Church
They
still
were.
exists. Those Arian bishops are Orthodox, and at that after they became.
Thank
What
you. Thank you.
are
You have
you, Mr.
successfully
Suaidan?
proven
Mr.
my point.
Suaidan, those Arian bishops at the time of fixing the crisis, the Arian crisis, came back to the Orthodox Church. They are Orthodox at
Did
the
they
fixing
repent?
of the schism. Of
Did they
course.
repent?
Why
So
else
then,
would they be
when they
Orthodox?
didn't repent, were they Orthodox?
What they breaking communion doesn't immediately kick
That's
you
not
out
what
of
I
the
asked.
church. What
Were they Orthodox before they repented or not?
in name they were, like your church.
In name they were. Thank you. And in name you are too. Congrats.
It's incorrect, Mr. Suaidan.
Okay, Anon.
Anon. Okay.
You call me. You call me Mr. Suaidan. I'm going to
I
call you
can't,
Anon.
for religious reasons, I can't call you that.
Oh,
You can
that's
at least
you know
respect my
what's
name.
funny? You know what's funny about the little diorite sect? You guys are so arrogant on this.
What
It's
makes
funny.
you think
I actually
I'm
said
diorite?
Christ is risen to someone on Twitter who was part of it. He couldn't say
What does
truly
this
is
have?
risen
What does this
back.
have? What does this have
You
to do
can't
with
if you can't answer
Mr.
Christ
Suaidan?
is risen.
Truly, he has risen, Mr.
Thank you.
Suaidan.
You're
Even
better off than some people.
brother, even before the debate began, I said Christ is risen, and you didn't respond to me.
I didn't see it.
I said it to you here.
I don't
Okay, I
care about
missed it.
any of this. Listen, I don't care about any of that because it has nothing to do with the debate. Move it back on topic, guys.
Oh, let's bring up another church canon that you're violating. We can talk about, for example, the Eighth Ecumenical Council that has to do with Canon 10 from the Council of 869, I believe, where
The
it says
Council of 869 isn't recognized by the Orthodox
yes,
Church.
it is recognized by the
Canon of
Orthodox.
879 is the one that's recognized by the
Saint
Orthodox Church.
Justin specifically mentions the Council of 869, as well as the other Orthodox saints. They both recognize them as canonical Eighth Ecumenical Council.
There are 8 ecumenical councils, but you're missing the point. They were 10 years apart. The Roman Catholic Council is
Yes, they
869.
were 10
The
years
one that
apart.
the one that the Orthodox were talking about was 879 and has
I
been
know that,
historically. But you just
both
quoted
of them.
869.
We recognize both of them, Mr. Suaidan. What does Council 10
That's
of
new for
869 say?
I don't care. I'm not a Roman Catholic.
It's not only the Roman Catholics that recognize that, Mr. Suaidan.
I think you're going to be surprised on that one.
I think I'm not.
I think you are.
What does Canon 10 say, Mr. Suaidan?
Don't know.
Okay, I will tell you what Canon 10 says.
Please do. So I can point out again that it's a recognized Roman Catholic council.
Doesn't matter. It's pre-schism, buddy.
That doesn't matter. Not every council is recognized as ecumenical. How about the Council of Arles or the Council of Orange?
Let me please say the canon.
Sure.
As divine scripture clearly proclaims, do not find fault before you investigate, and understand first and then find fault. And does the law judge a person without first giving him a hearing and learning what he does? Consequently, this holy and universal synod justly and fittingly declares and lays down that no layperson or monk or cleric should separate himself from communion with his own holy patriarchs before and careful inquiry and judgment in synod, even if he allegedly knows of some crime perpetrated by his patriarch, and he must not refuse to include his patriarch's name in the divine liturgy and or offices. This, when you actively leave the church, all right, you are going against Canon 10 of the Council of 869.
I've already addressed that with Canon 15 of the First Second Synod.
Saint Justin says that Saint Justin even agrees that this council is canonical and held by the Orthodox Church.
Saint Justin broke communion with the Patriarch before he died.
Okay, he's still a saint in the Orthodox Church, is he not?
I recognize him as a saint because I don't recognize the Patriarch. Hold on, though. I do want to get to the canons of 869 because obviously, since you hold them to be authoritative, I may as well do that because that will just further cement that effectively this is thinly masked Roman Catholicism, which I understand because of the
Coming
vagaries
from
of
the sedevacanist ideology that you hold, continue, please.
Sedevacantists. We have 3 archbishops of Athens. How can we say the
I'm
seat's
sure
not
you
empty? It's
do.
overfilled.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah, so
But
the
continue.
Sedevacantist mentality is retarded. They can't have a pope. What are you talking about? Stop saying silly things.
Okay, continue, Mr. Deacon.
Oh, I'm still looking for these canons of the Roman Catholics. I don't usually go to them, so
Because they're not just Roman Catholic canons, we recognize both of them, buddy.
that's
Please.
not true.
That
Okay,
is
let me see
true.
here. Okay, so let me see here because this one. All right, so let
Why
me
would we
see.
not recognize both councils when both saints, we have
Okay,
two
do you
saints that
recognize
came from
Canon
each
2 of
council?
869?
Say canon 2.
Obey your leaders and submit to them, for they are keeping watch over your souls. This person will have to give account, commands Paul the great apostle. So, having the most blessed Pope Nicholas as the instrument of the Holy Spirit and his successor, the most holy Pope Hadrian, we declare and order that everything which has been made expounded and promulgated by them in a synod at various times, both for the defense and the well being of the Church of Constantinople and of its chief priest, namely Ignatius, its holy patriarch, as well as for the condemnation and expulsion of Photius, the upstart usurper, should be maintained and observed together
Okay.
with the canons that are set forth. Oh,
Yeah,
you agree with that one?
879, the council confirmed the canons that were of the council of 869, right?
No,
Or are
it
you
actually
just saying
condemned
this
the
because
canon. It
no,
condemned the
no,
Council of
it did not.
869.
No,
Yes,
it
it did. That's basic, man. Even Callistus Ware has that in his history. I mean, come
that's
on.
incorrect,
No,
man.
you're wrong. Read Callistus Ware, the Orthodox Church. It's there. Sorry,
This
that council was
the
condemned in
the
879.
council, the first, second council, whose canons are accepted by the Orthodox Church, is
Mhm.
confirmed, and you would have to accept them too. But rather than doing that, your church tries to deny that the Orthodox Church accepts these.
I want to see if I understand you correctly. You accept Canon 860, the Council of 869, as the canonical council which condemned Saint Photius. That is what you are accepting.
Do you know what happened in council in the council that followed?
Yeah, that's why I know which council is
He
right.
became a saint.
I didn't hear what you said. Something about a saint?
He became a saint in the council that
Well, he
followed.
was already a saint.
Oh
He
no,
just
I
was
mean
glorified.
yeah, sure, okay, my
The
mistake.
point I'm trying to make is that the reversal in 879 was so obvious. Even Romanitas, who holds to your long filioque theory,
Canon
pointed out
is
that Pope.
still no. Canon 10 is still held by the Orthodox Church as a whole.
Okay, then find it in the rudder.
In the rudder, are you talking about Saint Nicodemus's rudder?
Yeah, where is it?
Saint Nicodemus's rudder, makes it clear that you can't judge a bishop without a synod.
It does under normal circumstances,
Okay,
but under Canon
okay,
15, it
hold on,
allows
hold
for the
on, hold
exception.
on. Why?
No. First, produce the rudder. Produce the canon from the rudder, or
Give
you're
me one
making
moment.
it up.
I'm not making it up. If
You're
you're
making it
judging,
up.
you are making extenuating circumstances to not judge a
That's
bishop
not even
by
the way you use
council.
that word.
Okay, English is my second language. What do you want from me? What the frick?
Respect. Respect. Now get it out of the rudder, please.
Okay, give me a moment to pull it up, my friend.
Can wait.
But
And
here,
while
so
he's pulling that up, make sure that I can take a shameless profit break and let everybody know that you need to donate to the Crucible immediately. It's good for everybody, and it's how we keep these great debates coming. I did notice that Resident Sleeper did use the English as my second language excuse, which I'm going to be giving him all kinds of shit about later. But for now, go ahead and get that pulled up so that we can keep the
so
debate going here, guys.
give
If
me
I may
one
take a moment
moment.
while he's looking. Oh, you found it? Oh,
Oh no,
okay.
go.
Oh, well, yeah, Andrew, I just wanted to take one moment to say thank you. It has been years since I was able to even have a public debate of this sort. And I know it's a personal risk, and more importantly, it is a very brave thing to do. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, well, no problem, man. We take all different types of views. While I am an Orthodox Christian myself, this is not an Orthodox channel. So this channel caters to debate, and that's what it's always going to cater to. And we need these views out in the open so that people can hash them out. I think that it's very important to do. We just want to make sure everybody has a fair shake at it. Go ahead, Resident Sleeper. Do you have that ready to go? If not, I'm going to give the floor over to Joseph. Go ahead.
Please give it to Joseph. I have it in my notes.
It's not in the rudder.
I have it in my notes, but continue.
Well, that's fine. Your notes aren't the rudder either.
Okay.
Oh, I was waiting. So, okay. So we'll let that go. So in other words, let me see if I understand correctly. You just used a canon used by Roman Catholics to justify not breaking the rules.
That we
Prove
also
it.
recognize.
Prove it. Prove it.
My goodness. If you have an ecumenical council that affirms canons, right? Canons, even if they do for Saint Photius, for example, who was later made the patriarch at the second I'm sorry, was it the second council? Later made the patriarch. It wouldn't matter if that second canon that deemed him anathema or a heretic was put there, because then he later became a patriarch. Why would that one matter?
Can I ask a question? You understand the whole Ignatian-Photian controversy, right? Like that Pope Nicholas installed Ignatius and basically deposed St. Photius, and then they finally reconciled, and then when Ignatius died, they put St. Photius back. You understand that there was a whole thing behind these councils, right? So the condemnation of St. Photius was illegal on the part of Pope Nicholas, and the Council of 879 was to actually fix it. And this is part of the reason why Pope Leo III put up.
So they fixed one of the anathematis, the condemnations of Saint Photius. Okay, but what about the other canons that are there?
You missed my point. The entire council was rejected. 869 was rejected. It was even rejected in the West until the 11th century with the Hildebrandians. They switched councils. So you're literally introducing a Roman Catholic council in defense of your orthodoxy. Congratulations.
It's not just recognized by the Roman Catholics, though. That's the issue.
It's literally officially just recognized by the Roman Catholics. It's not in the rudder.
Not.
I'm one of my wife is one of the rare people on earth who owns a rudder. So I don't even have to go to an online copy. I can actually pull the book.
Okay.
The point is, you're making a big deal about a council you shouldn't be defending because it's not an Orthodox council, and you just cited it.
Yeah, but Canon 10 is still accepted by the Orthodox Church.
Why
do you condemn the patriarchs of the Orthodox Church rather than try and fix them?
That's a non sequitur. We can't even establish the validity of a council, and now you want to establish the validity of a patriarch?
Why would you condemn them without even trying to reconcile with them?
Why would I try to reconcile with people who want to reconcile with heretics? The canon says we should flee that, and you're telling me I should stick around for that, and I want a good reason as to why. And on top of that, you're telling a whole bunch of people. You're telling a whole bunch of people that they should also just put up with it. You know how many times I hear from people on these internet channels going,
"When did I say just put up with it?" Hold on. When did I say just put up with it?
No, you said reconcile with it, which is even worse. The point is,
when did I say that?
You just said it. Why would you not reconcile with those patriarchs? And I'm literally telling you.
Why would you not want to help the Orthodox Church rather than?
I am helping the Orthodox Church.
How?
By keeping the faith.
You help it by leaving it?
I said by keeping the faith.
I know what you said, but you left the Orthodox Church.
I didn't leave the Orthodox Church.
So rather than trying to help the Orthodox Church from within, your schismatic groups actively leave the Orthodox Church. The people who care most about this issue are actively leaving, Mr. Suaidan, and that's because of people like you.
Yes, and that's exactly why. You know why? Because when the canon says, as I read in the beginning, is that what the faithful are supposed to do is flee heretical bishops, not stick around and wait for heretical bishops, not forgive heretical bishops, not let heretical bishops celebrate ecumenist ceremonies and then go, I'm against ecumenism. No, they're supposed to leave.
Wait, you don't forgive within your church? Even if they're preaching heresy?
Forgive heresy?
Would you not forgive
heresy?
Hold. We're getting into this zone again where the overlap is so much that I can't even understand what you guys are saying. We're going to start with Resident Sleeper. Just give him a minute. to say what he has to say. I promise I'll give you plenty of time, Joseph. Go ahead, Resident Sleeper.
So rather than forgiving the individual and praying for them and trying to actively help the church from within it, you leave. You flee them. You go away and you don't give them a proper synod to deem them a heretic or to deem them anathema. You don't do that. You leave, and you're trying to make the excuse that it is justified.
We good? Yep. Yeah. Again, I didn't come up with the idea of leaving. It's
I
in
know
the
you
canon.
didn't.
It's in the no. It's in canon 15 of the First Second Synod. It's in the rudder. It's actually in the book you're pretending to have a canon from. The point is that is what you're supposed to do: is leave for true bishops. True believing bishops, and then they form a synod and they start over. That is why there is an Archbishop of Athens who is true Orthodox. That is why there is a Metropolitan of Moscow who is true Orthodox. That is why there are true Orthodox bishops all over the world. Here's why. I explain that process in 5 steps very specifically, and the reason why is because people who do say, I'm against ecumenism, but I'm going to stay in the canonical church, you're still stuck on step 3. And the whole point is the system is designed to keep you stuck on step 3 until you accept it, until you accept ecumenism and it becomes
What is this
orthodoxy for you.
based on?
It's
What
based
is
on practice. We've seen it.
So the
We've
Holy
literally
Spirit,
seen it.
hold on. So the Holy Spirit would no longer protect the church based on this
No, the
idea
Holy
of
Spirit always,
staying. Okay, so then why'd you leave?
the Holy Spirit protects the church,
Uh huh.
not heretics.
Okay, it protects the church even from heretics. It is heretics who leave the church. That
That's
is
what the
what your
canon's
people
for.
did. That is
Yes, that's
okay.
what the canon's for.
Okay, what do canons do? Can you tell me what they do?
Canons are rules. I don't understand what you're
Canons
saying.
are rules. Do they define? Are the canons are did do heresy does heresy exist before the canon, or does the canon define the heresy?
That depends on the canon. Some canons do mention heresy. Some canons deal with behavior in regards to heresy generically. Canon 15 is one of those canons that deals with heresy generically. A more specific one would have been Laodicea, which says you cannot even intend prayer with schismatics or
Okay,
heretics.
I
Now, do
agree.
you agree with that? You agree with that one?
I agree with that one.
Now,
Yeah.
you noticed in my presentation all those pictures of your hierarchs appearing with
So
Roman
what?
Catholics and
You know what the beauty
the
of the
Concel.
Orthodox, you know what the beauty of the Orthodox Church is, Mr. Suaidan? You can
That's true.
say they're wrong for doing that.
Oh,
You and
that's fine.
rather they're wrong for doing that. You pray for them. You commemorate them until they have been officially anathematized by council, by synod. The Holy Spirit would be the ones protecting the church.
Okay, this is the church, not speaker's corner. It's not everyone has the right to say what they want, but we're right. It's you're either right or wrong. And orthodoxy is the true faith. It does
Yes.
not tolerate falsehood. It does not celebrate with falsehood. It does not pray with falsehood. Let us give another example. In 1991, the Addis Ababa agreements in with the Patriarchate of Antioch, where celebration with monophysites was allowed and encouraged and allowed between mixed marriages, allowed with concelebrations of priests. You're telling me the people who don't represent Chalcedon, who don't believe it's a synod, who actually think it's evil and refer to its saints as heretics, are your brothers in Christ because you are in communion with them.
We're in communion with the Roman Catholics with people like that. Is that what you're trying to say? I don't like. What do
Well,
you?
I wasn't. I hadn't gotten to the Roman Catholics yet. Don't get me started.
Okay,
We're still talking about. We're just talking about Antioch right now.
okay. We're in communion with heretics? How so? I mean, we're
You
in
can
communion with people.
celebrate with the priests, and
Okay. Does celebrating with them mean you're in communion with their churches?
yeah, it actually does.
How?
That's what
Seriously, how?
concelebration means. It is maybe that's because you're not Maybe it's because you're not clergy, but the whole point is concelebration means celebration together in the unity of the faith. If you are concelebrating at a service with a monophysite, you are saying he has the same faith. If you'd like, we can go to the Roman Catholics now, or we can try
No,
something else.
you wouldn't say that he has the same faith. This is
Of course you
you're
would.
you hold on. You said celebration and then celebration afterwards.
Concelebration literally means two priests celebrating at once.
Okay, you're trying to say that the Orthodox Church is in communion with them because of things that the bishops did. Do bishops all of a sudden, or bishops and priests all of a sudden define what the Orthodox Church is?
Why did you throw bishops and priests in there? That was a directive from bishops. We know that the bishops are supposed to represent the teachings of the Orthodox Church. Do I have to give you a lesson on
So
St.
hold on,
Ignatius?
hold on, no, no. Do bishops define the Orthodox Church? Do our bishops
No.
define it?
No, our bishops are
No.
called to defend the Orthodox Church. They're
Okay.
called to lead the Orthodox
And
Church,
when a
to
bishop is and
protect
when
the
a bishop
Orthodox
is in
Church.
heresy, and when a bishop is doing heresy, is actively committing heresy, why
Mhm.
is your immediate response leave?
Because I don't want to be part of heresy. It was
So
Abba
rather than
Gathon.
trying to help them and giving them
Let
a
him
fair
finish his
counsel,
answer. Let him finish his answer, resident sleeper.
It was Abba Gathon of the Desert Fathers, and it was brought up yesterday when he was called by his brother monks. They said, "You're contemptible. You're an adulterer. You are a speaker of vile words." And he said, "That's all true." And they said, "You're a glutton and a drunkard and a heretic." And he said, "Stop." And they said, "Why?" And he said, "I can take the accusation of all the sins against me, for they are profitable to my soul, but not heresy, for it separates one from God."
okay, and I can agree with that.
Can you?
Yeah,
You
yes,
sure?
Mr. Suaidan.
Mr. Resident Sleeper, you're defending concelebration with
How am I?
people
How am
who
I?
reject
Hold
the
on. Let's.
Council of
Stop.
Chalcedon.
How am I defending them by saying they're incorrect? How?
Because your priests are still communing with them. Your bishops are still communing with them. Your families are intermixing and marrying as though they were one faith.
So you're
That's not
talking
my
about
sin, that's
so
yours.
so
Every
so
single
hold on. You're bringing in the secular world into the world of religion and saying, "Oh, this is now an issue and the church can't be helped because of the secular politics." What
Wait,
what
wait,
what,
wait, wait, wait,
what
wait, wait, wait. You consider the Council of Chalcedon to be politics.
when did I say that? I said what
When
you're
you said that
what
this is
you're saying.
secular politics.
I said what you're saying is you're trying to bring in the intermarriage of Orthodox with other people like that. You're bringing in secular ideas of the U.S. and other countries like that have
So
different faiths and trying to make that an issue for the entirety of the Orthodox
wait,
Church.
let me see if
Who,
I
who,
understand you correctly. You believe that Orthodox should marry heterodox because
when
Orthodox
did I
people
say
believe
that?
Orthodox should marry, or you said it was politics. Orthodox people believe that Orthodox should marry Orthodox.
I'm saying you're bringing in the politics of people not following the faith and saying
I'm
this
not bringing it
defines
in
the
at
faith.
all.
That's
I
what you
didn't
just
bring it
did.
in. I didn't bring it in. Your patriarch did.
Where?
Once again, the call to communion statements I've seen reached out on multiple times. The 1991 agreed statements between the Syrian Jacobite Church and the Orthodox Greek Patriarchate of Antioch, as well as the Patriarchate of Alexandria with the Ethiopian Church, both of which advised for common concelebration between priests, which priest would take primacy at an Orthodox, quote unquote, celebration of a wedding between two different parties. So this presumes concelebration, and it does occur. I put a picture of one in there. So the point is this, and this is why I said this is mostly addressed to the audience, and I'm including Andrew in that audience and not you, because you are actually willing to bend over backwards to defend ecumenism. I want people who realize this is wrong to be free and know there are millions of people who are free too.
This is probably one of the dumbest things that I have ever been accused of is bending over backwards to defend ecumenism.
You just tried to reduce mixed marriage to politics.
What is
He
mixed
also
marriage if
quoted
not what is mixed marriage if not politics?
a sin.
Okay. And it's also politics, brother. When you have two countries, when you have a country that has different groups that are not all one united faith, then of course mixed marriages are going to happen. It is something that is secular that comes in.
Hey, I have a question for you.
Marriage is a sacrament, and it is to be with the only Orthodox Christians. That doesn't mean every Orthodox Christian is going to follow that. That means you should pray for them.
I have a question for you though. I'm a
Sure.
little confused. So, because the Church of Antioch was mentioned in the Holy Scriptures. It's in Antioch the disciples were first called Christians. Are you telling me that from AD 33 to 1990 they didn't know what they were doing, and now they just had to adjust to the times?
Well,
When did I
before
say
you
that?
hang on, before you answer, I just want to clarify for the audience because we have debates on other things as well, which would include mixed marriages. You guys aren't speaking about interracial
No, no,
marriages.
of course
You're talking
not.
No,
about
no, no.
interfaith.
No.
Right.
Okay, I just clarifying this for the audience. That's all. Okay, go ahead, guys.
I am pro interracial marriages. First,
I'm pro marriage. I'm pro Orthodox marriage. Don't
I
care about
agree.
any
I'm
of the other
also
stuff.
pro Orthodox marriage.
And also pro Monophysite Orthodox marriage.
When did I say that, Mr. Suaidan? Rather than I saying anything like this, you put these words in my mouth as if I'm trying to go out of my way to defend
You're the one
ecumenism.
reducing it
I'm,
to politics. I didn't change the policy. Go yell at Patrick John.
you just said that I'm pro Monophysite intermarriage with Orthodox. When did I say that?
When you implied that we should stay in communion with them.
When did I imply that?
When you said that we should stay in communion with them.
When did I say we should stay in communion with Monophysites?
Oh, I never said you want to stay in communion with Antioch. They're staying in communion with Monophysites. That's not my problem.
So, because one church has communion with Monophysites, the entirety of the Orthodox Church is incorrect?
Hey, I have a question for you. Um, I know that you may not have noticed that I put in like a picture of Patrick Athenagoras and Paul VI. Why is it that every single time, and pretty much every single time in my living memory for the past, I don't know, 3 decades, that the Patriarch of Constantinople and his entourage go to Rome or vice versa, the Pope is commemorated first in the liturgy.
So, three
Why is that?
decades is enough to do a schism?
No, I didn't say that. I'm asking you, why does Constantinople and has Constantinople for the past 30 years commemorated the Pope as the first bishop of the church?
Who cares? We
People who
can't.
don't want to be in communion with the
We
Pope.
wouldn't say they're right for doing so. But who cares? You want to
Okay,
believe
so let
in
me see.
the
Let me see if I
Orthodox
understand
Church.
correctly. You're okay. You're okay with mixed marriages with Monophysites. You're okay with commemorating
When
the
did
Pope
I
of
say
Rome.
that? When did I say that? I
Just
said
when you
who
said you don't
cares?
care, when you said who cares, Orthodox care,
Yeah,
resident sleeper,
Orthodox do care.
Orthodox care.
And you pray for this incorrect teachings within you have
But
to help from within the church, not leave the church.
yeah, that's
It
not what St.
makes
Mark
no
of Ephesus
sense,
did.
Mr. Joseph.
That's not what St. Mark of Ephesus did.
It doesn't matter. We're trying
That's
to
not what
follow the
That's not what Patriarch Gennadius Scholarius did. And Gennadius came in pro-union before the union, and then came out against it because he was convinced by St. John, and then was elected because the Muslims realized that they wanted someone who was anti-unionist. So all the official clergy who St. John said stay away from were in communion with Rome. It sounds like you're defending that again, obviously, since we shouldn't really care who's commemorated.
You know, Saint John Chrysostom was going out of his way to say, "What good is abstaining from eating birds and fish, but we bite and devour our brothers." You don't want to help them, rather you want to leave. It makes no
I've done
sense.
I've done nothing but support my brothers.
How you by leaving them?
I don't leave them.
You did. Why else
No, I
would you
did.
be a schismatic sect?
Here's a fun fact for you, resident sleeper. Unlike most of the people you talk to who get their religion from the internet, I actually was born and raised Roman Catholic. I converted to Orthodoxy, and the first place I went was the Russian Church abroad. and then went right advertised was Hakna, which was a Greek old calendarist group. I didn't even go into a World Orthodox church until about 3 years later, for about a year, realized my mistake and went back home.
So you went from schism to Orthodox back to schism?
No, I went from Orthodox to schism back to Orthodox.
You know Hakna was founded by a pedophile, right?
Oh, brother. You know, Hakna was a group of Greek parishes that were following a cult leader, right? I know very well. And by the way, my priest is still
so you just called them Orthodox.
They were Orthodox. Until they proclaimed heresy, they were Orthodox. Why would you say otherwise?
So your church is the only one that decides who and who isn't Orthodox?
No, I think there's a pretty good universal when you're using the councils of the church. For example, I can't come up with Arianism again. It's already been condemned.
I know, you've come up with Donatism. That's what
No,
you're suffering.
have I?
Yes.
Tell me, how did I do that?
By condemning every single patriarch except for the 10 that are in your the few that are in within your tiny group. That's
by the way, the tiny group you're talking about is millions of people. For example, in Romania,
can I have the numbers?
Stop lying.
Can I have the numbers?
Currently, according to the last record of the month,
send me the numbers, please.
I'm not doing that this debate. I'm not doing that this.
Okay,
you can look do the research yourself. If you go to my Gab account, and look at my page, I have a hashtag called True Orthodox Churches. You can go through all the statistics of all the different True Orthodox churches in the world.
Can you send me the statistics in private chat? Why not?
No, because it's not relevant.
Because
I can produce lots of pictures with lots of cathedrals, with lots of crowds. I've been in lots of crowds, and you keep implying we're celebrating in a closet.
You can probably produce a lot of numbers, too, if you can produce a lot of pictures. Now, can I see them?
I can't, no, because you're making a claim that you can't back up.
You just made a claim that you're not backing up.
No, you made the claim that you keep referring to a tiny group. It's a
tiny group.
Except it's not. It's millions of people.
Your church actively condemns those other GOCs, though. I was looking at your church's website. It condemns
Which church am I part of?
You're part of the True Orthodox Church of bishops inside the North America and British Isles.
Oh, the Autonomous Orthodox Metropolia. Please show me where on that website, just one page that condemns all the other True Orthodox churches. I'll wait. I know the website real way. I know the website real well.
I'll send it to you in private chat, but you won't send me the numbers.
Because I don't believe you have
that. Because you don't have them.
Okay, once again, if you refer to something as tiny, I can refer to photographs. I did refer to photographs. I don't have to produce the numbers on command. The point I'm trying to make is
then why should I believe that your church has millions of followers?
Because
of the fact tiny sect has millions of followers.
Once again, tiny is relative. If you're talking tiny compared to 300 million people, sure, yeah, you could say that 30 million people is tiny. But the point is, from a real perspective, 30 million people is enough to run large cities, small countries, etc. And all over the world, it's not tiny.
Yeah, they're tiny in comparison to where they're located. Do you think all of these groups are located in one centralized area, 4 million, all of a sudden in this tiny spot, now running cities? That makes no sense.
In the case of Romania, that's actually true. And it's actually true in certain parts of Bulgaria. There are actually whole villages that are True Orthodox in many areas.
Can you provide it? Or are you just going to claim it?
Well, what am I providing exactly?
The numbers.
Okay. Once again, you can look up the numbers yourself. It's irrelevant to this discussion.
I think it's pretty relevant.
I think you've run out of things. I think you've run out of things to argue. You've already caved on monophysites. You've already caved on ecumenism. You've already caved on celebrating with the Pope. This is really what you got. Go get the numbers, Joseph.
When did I cave on that, Joseph, buddy? When I'm asking you for the numbers in your tiny church, I'm saying this because your church is small.
I think your church is tiny.
Okay, I don't care. Now, here's why I'm saying this. Because you're a schism, right? Mm-hmm. I'm trying to see why your church, small church... What do you mean, prove it? Did your church not leave in 2001 from the Orthodox Church?
Once again, prove it. Schism means that we hold the same faith and that we started a separation. That is according to St. Basil's first canonical epistle.
Do you not believe we hold the same Orthodox faith?
No, I don't.
Why?
because you accept Monophysites, you accept commemoration of the Pope,
When did I
you
say
accept
any of that?
ecumenical prayers,
When did I
and
say
on
a
top of that,
single one
you
of those things?
you came in thinking. You came in thinking that I was going to be like, I guess I am schismatic. No, I don't
When
think
did
I'm
I?
schismatic. I'm
Hold on.
Orthodox.
No, I
You're,
didn't. I
I'd
did
say
not
you're a
come in,
heretic.
and I think
You
you're
want to?
schismatic. And
That's
here's why.
fine. To
I
prove
don't,
it, we have to have the same faith.
Joseph.
Do we have the same
I did,
faith?
Joseph. I didn't come in saying that I'm going to convince him to think that he's a schismatic. That's not the
No,
point of a debate, buddy.
I know. You came in to try to make a fool of me, and it's not working.
I says the person with Hitler in one of his slides. Okay.
It was effective, wasn't it?
No.
We'll see.
My goodness.
My point in putting up the Hitler slide was that the 1940s introduced a great many changes which would lead to the leadership in world orthodoxy today.
So you
Leadership we
opened up.
stayed away
So
from.
you opened up a couple of folders and you were like, "Oh, maybe I should follow this ideology." It's crazy, Mister.
You mean
Mr.
orthodoxy? Yeah, that's what happened.
No,
Yeah, I
I,
follow
I
orthodoxy.
I think that you have the right idea for kicking
Hey,
out heretics,
are
but I think that you're applying it incorrectly.
can I ask a question, RS? I mean, I'm kind of ignorant because I'm a schismatic and all, but what does orthodox mean?
True belief. Now, why does true belief make sense?
It actually means right belief. Orthos isn't true. That's right.
Okay.
No, Nisios is
Now,
true.
hold on.
If you're being technical,
Why does
um,
true right belief make sense?
that's actually first off.
Uh-huh.
Besides the legal reason that Chris Dabrowski gave,
Okay.
true has been used in every single period of heresy. For
So
example,
this
during the
ideology you're espousing is
can
not
I
redundant?
hey can I finish? When Saint Athanasius met with the emperor, and the emperor said, "You look different than every bishop I've ever dealt with," he said, "That is because you have never met a true bishop." True has been used in
Okay.
every single century that we have had heresies.
Does bishop mean genuine? Does bishop mean
Genuine,
correct? Does
genuine means genuine and true are the same word.
okay, so then why are you saying the same word twice? It's redundant.
Once again, to when in periods of heresy, the people at Florence called themselves Orthodox too. The people who
Okay.
were for the Union called themselves Orthodox too. You admitted that the Arians called themselves Orthodox too, and your argument was we should believe them for that. No, if you believe
Why,
you
hold
hold
on. No,
faith,
no, 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 no. When did I say that? When? When did I
when you
say
said
you should
the
believe?
Arians were Orthodox, you don't remember that part?
I said they were Orthodox after they repented.
And you said before that they were still official, right?
They were
And they
the.
were you said Orthodox like, I believe the words were.
I don't think I said that, but I said they were they were the majority of the Orthodox Church at that time. They didn't
No,
define the Orthodox Church.
yeah, because they were outside the Orthodox Church, because they were Arian heretics.
So what happened when the Arian crisis finished? Did they remain heretics?
They repented, and
Okay,
they
and how long
repented of
and
their
how long and how long
heresy.
did that take? And how long
It
did that
actually
take?
took around 200 to 300 years because it
Okay,
was different
so
countries.
200 to 300 years, and all of a sudden you can leave right away. It makes no sense.
No, the people left and stayed away. Actually, many churches were left emptied,
Your
which is what
church
you're seeing
left in
now in the Greek archdiocese.
2001. Your church left in 2001 over a 3 decade
What
long
is
from
this?
your
What
time.
is what? Okay, what is this 2001 deal? What are you talking about?
That's when your church left.
Left what?
The Orthodox Church.
What did we do in 2001?
You schismed away from Rokor, I believe.
No, that would be wrong. Your history is completely wrong. But go ahead. Find a source.
Okay, then tell me.
Oh, well, since we
When did your church leave?
our church didn't leave.
Yes,
Our
it did.
church was at. Oh boy,
When did it leave?
you don't know history well. Once again, when Rokor was in communion with the old calendar, the True Orthodox Church of Greece, in 1978, a group of Portuguese parishes that were originally disgusted by Vatican II when they wanted to become Orthodox reached out to Archbishop Maxentius of Athens. He then made bishops for Portugal. This caused so much of a stir that Rokor actually said, "We're going to stay away from communion with everyone for a while." At which point, because what Archbishop Maxentius of blessed memory had done was that he had created a missionary diocese for Western Europe, which you might know as the Milan Synod. Because what happened is after Portugal, they created bishops for Milan, and so it was a missionary diocese, and our bishops were taken in 1997. So no, we weren't formed from schism. We were formed as a missionary diocese of the True Orthodox Church of Greece.
So you were
So
formed
everything you
from
said
a
was wrong.
schism. So you were formed from a schism.
Oh boy, here we go again.
You
I
were
feel
formed
like you
from
really
Hold
okay.
on, hold on.
RS,
So
RS. Let me
your
ask you a
church
question.
is already from a schism, and you're trying to claim that it's true?
Okay, let's try this again. You really want to stick this schism title on me, so we're gonna get right to the heart of it. Can you tell me what a schism is, according to Saint Basil?
Breaking away from the Orthodox Church is what a schism is. Heretics
No, that's
leave.
not how it's.
Heretics
That's not how
schism
it's
away.
designed. That's not how. No.
Okay, go
According to
ahead.
Saint Basil's canonical epistle, schismatics are formed when people form factions while holding the same faith. Heretics teach false teachings, and parasynagogues are people without any legitimate authority forming their own conventicles. Those are the three things: heresy, schismatics, parasynagogue. If you are
And I
saying I'm a
think
schismatic,
I
you are
think
saying we have the same
yeah,
faith.
I
I
am
do not
saying
believe we
I
have
am
the same
saying we
faith.
have the same faith, and I'm
And I'm
saying
saying we
you're the
don't.
ones calling us heretics.
And I'm saying when you're quoting Roman Catholic books and you're okay with communing monophysites and you're okay with mixed marriages between Orthodox and hetero, we don't have the same religion. I'm Orthodox and I'm proud to be Orthodox, and all of my brothers are Orthodox, and everyone I recognize is Orthodox. All the people I know, and I've seen, by the way, I've been in crowds of
Only my
thousands
church
in
is
Greece.
Orthodox. Only my
Prove
church
it.
is Orthodox.
I
What the
doubt it.
fuck?
No, no, all the churches that I've
That's
been to,
you.
I've met. Do you understand? Again, I have been in services with thousands of people in Greece,
I
and
have been in
my
services
Greek.
with thousands of people in
Okay,
Albania.
congratulations. But here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Uh huh.
You want to present us as tiny and
Uh
as
huh.
irrelevant. I was
Okay.
actually at that particular celebration was a village celebration. It wasn't even one of the major ones in Athens. It wasn't one of the main true Orthodox Greek
Okay.
groups. We're a small Greek group that we're in communion with, and we're still way bigger than you could possibly not only envision but present. And the reason for that
Provide
is
the
the reason
numbers.
the reason you can't do that, and the reason you want to talk about numbers, is because of the fact that you don't want people to know that they can be
Provide
free,
them.
Orthodox, free people under
Provide.
true confessing
Provide
bishops.
the
Under
numbers.
true confessing bishops, and
Please,
you're not going to be trapped in a closet.
Mr.
You're not going to
Sweden.
be celebrating alone. There are
Mr.
people
Sweden.
from the you know that for 5 years.
Provide the numbers.
No, I already
Then
said I'm
I
not doing
won't
that.
believe you.
I don't care. The point is, you're wrong on schism. You're wrong on heresy. You're wrong on Roman Catholicism. You're wrong on monophysitism. You're wrong on ecumenism. Why should I believe that we have the same faith? I don't
Well,
think
that's
we do.
just
I
like
don't think you have the same
your
faith as a bunch of
opinion,
people in the
man.
audience, and it's about to be proven.
About to be proven by a man staring and actively challenging Orthodox Christians?
You're not an Orthodox Christian.
Yes, I am. In
No,
fact,
you're an
I think you're
ecumenist.
schismatic.
You're an ecumenist.
When
You
have I
defend
preached?
ecumenists. You
When?
are an ecumenist. You did it all this debate.
When did I preach ecumenism?
When
When?
you said that mixed marriages are simply politics, that the celebration of priests with heretics doesn't matter, that
If
commemoration with the Pope of Rome, who cares? That's ecumenist.
I'm saying we have to pray for them, we can only help from within the church, not outside of it.
You know, who cares and pray for them are not the same thing.
So you don't pray for your enemies? Thank you, Mr.
Of course, I
Suaidan.
pray for my enemies, but I know who they are.
Okay.
No, but don't pretend that these bishops are saying, "Oh yes, we're doing this because we're praying for our enemies." There was an article just a couple of days ago with one of the Fanar's representatives going to meet with the Roman Catholic bishop, and it was like two brothers with one faith was the title. It was a quote from them. So don't lie to us. Don't
Okay.
say, "Oh,
We
don't
can,
say, oh,
Mr.
this is
Sweden,
praying for your
Mr.
enemies."
Sweden,
No, it's
and
not.
you can sit there and say,
You're a
"Hey,
big
what
defender
they
of
did
ecumenism, buddy.
was wrong." By saying what they're doing is wrong, I am defending ecumenism, That
Yes, you
makes
know
no
why?
sense, Mr.
It
Suaidan.
does, because the canons say what to do. Find a true bishop. It is my advice to everyone here. There's lots of them, hundreds of true bishops, true Orthodox bishops. You do not have to be under
Provide the
false
numbers,
orthodoxy. You do not have
please.
to. You don't have to be under false orthodoxy. You don't have to drink Diet Coke. You don't have to eat fake meat. Why? If you don't have to eat fake meat and drink Diet Coke, do you have to have a fake religion? Join the truth.
Yeah,
That's what
I'm
orthodoxy
gonna
means.
ask, why are you leaving the Orthodox Church? Because
I already told you.
you're
According
not
to you, I
going.
was never in the Orthodox Church. So
I'm gonna say,
don't get it twisted. You
so
said I was
I said,
born in schism.
you came from a schismatic parish.
I'm proud of it. It's not schismatic. It was
You just
Orthodox. The priest that baptized me, is part of a different group. He's with the GOC Kalinikos. Amazingly, you can even stay Orthodox and go to a different synod, and you're still Orthodox. You don't have to like freak out or anything like that. There's no celebrations with heretics. When you're in communion with just Orthodox, life is better. That's why the canon's there, because the Holy Spirit doesn't want unnecessary suffering. You look at what's happening to Father Peter here, and he has to defend the sad excuse for orthodoxy. But the truth is, if he just followed the canon properly, there's like he could go to 2 or 3 different Greek synods if he wanted to in this country alone.
so
But he's decided to suffer at the hands of his hierarchy.
Father Peter Hears is holding to what the canons actually say, and that's not to immediately schism
That's
away from the bishops.
Canon 15 once again says
Canon
that exact
15
wording.
that you're misquoting. It does not
I'm
say
not.
to
Not
separate
only am I
from the
not.
church. It
Not only
tells
am I
us.
not misquoted, it says those who separate are not in schism, but rescuing the church from schism.
Where
So
does
those
it
who
say that
leave,
they hold on? Where does it say that they should completely separate from the church? Where
it says it
in
says
that canon?
leave the heretical bishop. Leave. That's what it says.
Leave and not try and help the bishop?
Doesn't say that in the canon. It says leave.
I think you're incorrect and you're
I can put it
misinterpreting.
right back on the screen
I
if you'd
think you're
like.
misinterpreting the
I
entire
can put it
canon as
right
it
back on
is.
the screen if you'd like. Andrew, can I put it back on the screen since he really thinks I'm just misquoting?
You
One
can, yeah.
moment, please. Thank you. One moment. hmm
Right. Basically,
Okay. Just give me a moment. I'm getting to it. I'm going to put it in nice big letters because you clearly do not believe what I'm saying. And here you go. You can read it out loud if you'd like. As soon as it loads. Still loading. Okay. It's really kind of slow. Must be my internet. Okay, there we go. All right. By the way, this is only half the quote. The other half is talking about what happens when you are an actual schismatic and you're disobedient. That's not what we're talking about. I even kept a lot of that part too.
you are
Please
the
read.
actual
Please
schismatic that
read.
is
Please
disobedient.
read.
Declares to secede from communion with his own patriarchs and does not mention him by name, is ordered and appointed in the divine misogyny. But before the
Are you reading the same thing I'm reading? Because this is
it's
from an actual Orthodox
misogyny.
council. It sounds like you're reading from your Roman Catholic council. Can you please read?
For condemnation, he creates a schism. The Holy Synod has decreed that the person be alienated from every priestly function. So you create a
Schismatics are
schism.
bad.
Yeah, you
Schismatics are
are a
very bad.
schism.
No,
Okay.
wrong. Keep reading.
If only he is proven to have transgressions in this.
hmm
These rules, therefore, have been sealed and ordered concerning those who, in the pretext of some accusations against their own president, stand apart, creating a schism and severing the unity of the church.
hmm
But, but as for those who, on account of some heresy condemned by Holy Synod or fathers, sever themselves from communion with their president, that is, because he publicly preaches heresy and with bareheaded teaches in the church, such persons as these not only are not subject to canonical penalty for wailing themselves off.
Walling themselves off.
I'm sorry again, walling
It,
themselves off. from the communion with the so-called bishop before synodical clarification. But they shall be deemed worthy and do honor among the Orthodox. Okay, but this doesn't say...
What else? Finish. Finish.
For not bishops, but false bishops and false teachers they condemned. And they have not fragmented the church's unity with schism, but from schism and division they have earnestly sought to deliver the church. Okay, but where is this telling you to immediately schism without trying to fix the issue?
It doesn't say that.
Okay, it doesn't say that. When did you try to fix the issue?
Between 1924 and 1935, in the case of the Church of Greece. I can give you other examples from other countries if you'd like.
Only a few years you tried to fix this issue?
Well, to be fair, they were trying to kill the old calendarists, and they ended up creating a martyr out of a number of people. Had I known it was that I could have had I had a longer presentation, I would have pointed out that in those intervening years, there were many cases of the New Calendar archbishops violently persecuting the true Orthodox, the old calendarists, as you like to call them. They were being thrown in jails. They were being thrown into labor camps. And St. Catherine Rowdis, who we recognize as a martyr, was actually killed by a police officer trying to protect the priest who they were trying to attack while he was serving liturgy. At one point, the Archbishop of Athens of the New Calendarists actually went with police and took the holy mysteries that they were celebrating while they were on the altar. They grabbed the priest, they removed him, threw him in jail. The archbishop then publicly grabbed the chalice and went to the bathroom and dumped the contents of the body and blood of Christ in the toilet. Don't tell me about how great the church is.
So people making mistakes automatically...
People making mistakes. That's evil, dude. That's not a mistake.
Yeah,
that's evil. Call it evil. No, it's evil. Call it evil.
So immediately leaving them is the solution?
Call it evil.
Sure, what he did was bad. You can say that within the Orthodox Church, but leaving is not the solution.
How about was it
bad? There is no forgiveness in your groups. You know what?
That's not true. They get along great. I've seen people from different True Orthodox synods celebrating in the same services. They go to each other's
you've seen people from within your tiny groups celebrating with their tiny groups. You hate all other people. You hate all other people, Mr.
Tiny groups.
Hold. Okay. There's no great way or great place to ever end a debate, especially one as contentious as this one. But we do have to move into closing statements and move off to callers. So anybody who wants to call in, now's the time to start stacking up before we move into closing statements. Now, because Joseph was the first one to open, we're going to give him the final word. We're going to start with Resident Sleeper's closing statement first. We're going to give him 7 minutes on the clock. 1 second, Resident Sleeper. Go ahead.
This entire debate, Mr. Suaidan has put words in my mouth. He has claimed that I am defending ecumenism. He has claimed that I am teaching things that are against Orthodox ideology by calling people incorrect. I can't think of a single person who can make these claims seriously. It is almost in the same spirit of the Pharisees, who almost in exact same words as Mr. Suaidan would say it is us who are the original and you moved away from the faith. This is exactly how those who oppose the Church of Christ started with, saying we staunchly preserve the testaments of the fathers, our father Abraham, etc. It was he who departed from the patristic legacy. Same words as the Pharisees. Clergymen who do not teach their flock obedience of the bishop instilled over them to be excommunicated. Apostolic Canon number 36. Have you taught obedience to your parishioners for these patriarchs which you deemed heretics? On the contrary, you have pushed towards them disobedience, rebellion, insulting, and speaking evil. This going against Apostolic Canon number 55. To quote St. Lawrence of Chernigov, to break away from the church is the greatest and unforgivable sin, for it is a sin against the Holy Spirit. Your position, in a nutshell, is the Roman Catholic position of satis cognitum. You are schismatic, and also basically set of a contest for orthodoxy. That's all I have to say on that. I don't need the I see the rest of my time.
Oh,
Sorry about
okay.
that, gentlemen. I'm going to give you the same opportunity. You have 7 minutes on the clock. Joseph, go ahead whenever you're ready.
My opponent mentioned the apostolic canons as though he takes them seriously. I had to skip through one of them very quickly, but it says Canon 64 of the Apostolic Canon says, if any clergyman or layman shall enter into a synagogue of Jews or heretics to pray, let the former be deposed and the latter be excommunicated. By contrast, my opponent here thinks it's okay to celebrate with monophysites, thinks it's okay to declare mixed marriages with non Orthodox to be okay, uses a Roman Catholic book and a Roman Catholic council to defend his Roman Catholic teaching, and then calls me, a Roman Catholic, and then tries to argue that I'm a Sedevacantist, even though I've already shown we have complete hierarchies. It's the silliest comparison in the world. Then he tries to say, oh, well, the tiny group. Research it yourself, guys. Go to my Gab, go to hashtag True Orthodox Churches. You can see all the synod's different websites. And as for St. Lavrenti of Chernigov, I don't know if I would really reference him, considering that the prophecy of St. Lavrenti told people not to go into the churches of the Moscow Patriarchate. But since you were wrong on basically everything on this, I don't mind. I think it was a very spirited debate. I think it went exactly as I predicted, and I will tell you why. Because there's only two ways people who supposedly fighting from within end up. Either A, they end up leaving, or B, they end up joining the establishment and becoming the very ecumenists they despise. My time's up.
Guys, I appreciate the debate very much. I appreciate you both coming in order to have this particular debate. I was not expecting it to go like it went, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. We do things a little bit differently here on the Crucible. After the closing statements are done, we do consider the debate to be closed. That doesn't mean that further debate won't happen as callers call in, or you guys may have other things, choice things you might want to say. And the moderator also generally around this time will start to participate a bit as well. I did have two questions that I wrote down as the debate was going through. One of the ones was because we were hung up on this point, which is the millions of followers claim.
Mhm.
So I have the benefit, of course, of listening, not on the front lines doing the debating at the time. So I can kind of research this out. But, the Mormons, the Church of Latter-day Saints, they have about 17 million members, right? Now, this is globally, of course. Now, you would say that this is massive. I think you made a point. That's plenty to run a city, an entire city, multiple cities, in fact, depending on the scalability of it. But if you compare it to Baptists, for instance, or the Russian Orthodox Church just by itself has 90 million members, just the Russian sect itself. Um, it does seem that if that's to scale, then that would be considered at least pretty small from a Christian standpoint. Same thing with Baptists. Baptists are around 100 million members. That does seem, if you're going to use it on some type of sliding scale, that's very, very small. So I was curious, the membership that you have, would you say it's less or more than the LDS?
When you're talking to me, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. True Orthodox as a whole, and remember, I am talking about the composite total of all True Orthodox in the world. So I'm not just talking about the ones in America. If we were to go by just America, our numbers are pathetic compared to the rest of the world, whether you're True Orthodox or World Orthodox. If you go to Greece, however, the last numbers I have read, for example, Greece, I believe, has 12 million people. In 1950, when they did the census, they had 8. And at that time, 1 million people were True Orthodox. So it was about 12.5% of the Greek population. The latest things that I've read in attempts at the Moscow Patriarchate to negotiate with different True Orthodox in Greece listed numbers varying from between 2 and 4 million, which would make them one third of the population. Based on what I have seen in Greece and based on what I have seen in buildings, it is not inconceivable that one third of the population is True Orthodox.
Okay, gotcha. So on the overall numbers, though, would you say
Oh,
that
on the
that's
I would probably
yeah?
guess that I would guess usually True Orthodox seem to comprise between 10 and 12% of the population. Using the global population of Orthodox as a benchmark of 275 million, my guess is the True Orthodox number between 25 and 30 million.
Okay, gotcha. So kind of on par with the LDS numbers anyway, or slightly higher. In the slides, there was one more question I had before we move into the callers. In the
Of
slides,
course.
you seem to kind of want to tie in Orthodox leadership to Nazis. That seemed to be kind of one of the things you're doing there.
I was
I mean, I understand. I understand the purpose, right? I get the purpose, and it's a debate, and I understand it's
you
powerful
know,
rhetoric and this kind of thing.
I will say this. My wife actually pointed out, she's like, "Why Hitler?" And I was like, "Okay, the reason for this, and I'm going to explain that, is because the next four slides are all dealing with the interwar period. Rokor's survival for a short period depended on Hitler. The Paris school, which eventually would become the leadership of Saint Vladimir's and part of the OCA, were hated by Hitler and were thought to be some sort of Masonic group, which seems to be the general consensus now. In Greece, after heavy persecution by the new calendarist hierarchy, it wasn't until the occupation of Greece by Hitler ended up freeing the old calendarists and ended up tripling their numbers. So ironically, bad man he was. I'm not saying that he was good man, but what I'm saying is that for a person of his time, it seemed that he had a very big role in both not only the preservation of true orthodoxy, but in the kind of creation of the world Orthodox apparatus that we think of. Even the last slide with Russia, which I realized that once I got to I had a stopwatch on my computer, and once I got to there, I was like getting nervous. But the reason I put Patriarch Sergius versus Saint Joseph of Petrograd is because Saint Joseph of Petrograd led the obvious catacomb church. It was listed in communist documents as the true Orthodox Church. They actually called it that in communist documents, and they were like, "These are enemies of the state." Patriarch Sergius had declared loyalty to the state in 1927, and it wasn't until 1943 to fight Hitler that they elevated him to a patriarch so that more Russian people would start believing that the church was back. But many people already knew the church existed and they were being hunted down, enemies of the church. And ironically, they're all in that icon on the center, which the Moscow Patriarchate didn't actually recognize any saints from until 2000. That's well after communism fell. The true Orthodox always believed that, and they always held to the saints on the Rokor icon. I hope that answers
Gotcha.
some of it.
Yeah, a bit. I mean, obviously, I don't know the history that you're talking to directly, so I'll have to look into it, and I will because I think it's interesting. But I appreciate you answering the question. Moving over to callers, I have MM. You are first one up. Go ahead with
What's
your
up,
question,
party
sir.
people? It's been a minute.
Yeah,
All
it's been a
right,
minute.
so
How's your residency going?
it's going good. I'm working at a clinic right now. I still have to like get my licensing exam sorted. So
Gotcha. All right. Well, cool, man. Go ahead.
yeah, so I did tune in late into the debate, so I actually didn't hear a whole lot of what was said except towards the end about ecumenism and all that other good stuff that always gets brought up in these kinds of debates with the quote unquote true Orthodox. But
There's never been a formal debate between a true Orthodox on video, to my knowledge.
maybe I don't know.
That was
But
made up.
yeah, it's not made up. I'm just saying. I have had debates in person with the True Orthodox because one of my good friends is actually a Florinite True Orthodox person.
What kind of
So,
Florinite?
huh?
What kind of Florinite?
That's like one of the problems with the whole quote unquote True Orthodox movement is that there's a million groups. It's not just
Not a million.
and obviously, I believe ecumenism and all these like Sergianism and all this stuff. These are total heresies, and the church
But you
should
stay
deal
with
with
the
them.
heretics.
Sorry.
You stay with the heretics.
That's the problem, right? That's clearly Donatism.
What's Donatism?
Donatism is the idea that communion, especially with not direct lines of bishops, right? So I'm Serbian and I'm a part of the Serbian Orthodox Church. And as far as I'm aware, I could be wrong, but
You are right. If you're going to say there's no true Orthodox Serbian church, you're wrong. There is a true Orthodox Serbian church.
I know Bishop Artemia, he also schismed from the church for a lot of reasons. Some of them.
Bishop Artemia did not want to get involved with the Serbian true Orthodox. I was referring to Bishop Akakia.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Artemia was
bishops.
a World Orthodox bishop who did not
Aren't
bring
you-
communion.
Aren't you just giving more credence to his point?
Yeah, that this is sort of the problem and why Donatism itself as a movement back in the 5th
What was
century
Donatism
split off.
again?
Donatism is the idea, as I understand, that communion is sullied by the presence of patriarchs or bishops communing with bishops who are preaching heresy. Now,
Incorrect. That is not
my
the teaching
understanding of the
Donatism.
canons is the canons are conciliar documents meant to be, how would you say, executed and in a conciliar fashion by the bishops of the church. So
Can I
if
stop you there?
sure,
Can I stop you there for a second? Because you're wrong. Donatism wasn't about heresy. It was about sin.
Yeah.
It was about bishops who sinned, not bishops who were heretics. These are two very different things.
Is
So your
this sin
definition
and
of
breaking
Donatism,
God's canons?
well, heresy is a sin, right?
heresy is false teaching. But said, don't just mix them all together. Heresy
So
and
it's not
regular
the
sin.
But
same.
heresy is a sin.
No, I brought this up earlier with Abba Agathon. You can be all sorts of sins, but if you're a heretic, you are separated from God. There is
Yeah, exactly.
a difference.
Is that not
you
a
don't-
sin?
so that's okay. Once again, heresy is not the same as plain old sin. And the fact
it's
that
a
you keep
sin.
wanting to combine them, the fact that you want to combine them so you can falsely claim it's Donatism means
Is
you are not
heresy-
being
I'm not confounding them.
honest.
I'm just saying sin is a metaphysical reality, right? Sin is
Are heresy and
letting
sin
the
same
Holy
thing?
Spirit leave you because you are committing sin and you're
Are
being
heresy
unlawful.
and sin the same thing?
Say that again?
Are heresy and sin the same thing?
Heresy is sin. Sin is a broader category of a metaphysical
What
reality,
is
right?
heresy?
Heresy is false teaching. Heresy
heresy is false
is
teaching.
delusion.
Right. Now, did the Donatists break off with people because of heresy or because of just sin?
Both. They said
Wrong.
the church
Just
was
sin.
graceless.
Is
Incorrect.
Sin, hold on.
Just
Is
sin.
Is sin not
There's
breaking
a
God's
kind-
canons?
You cannot combine heresy and sin. They're not the
You're-
same thing.
The problem with Donatism isn't just, like I said, the strict definition and how it was played out by a specific
first
group
off,
in
you
the
have
5th
to
century.
not.
It's a
First off, you have to
metaphysical
know-
problem of the
Okay,
heresy.
you should learn what Donatism is first before talking.
I know what Donatism. That's
No,
what I
you
said.
don't.
Obviously, I understand
don't.
that the
You don't, and
Donatists
you don't, and
broke
you need
off from the
RS
church
to help
because
you.
they thought the hierarchy was too sinful.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. But that's not what we did.
I understand you have ecclesiological, as said, misgivings
Justification.
about how world orthodoxy is structured, right? And
You mean
this
heresy.
is
You
like
mean
the sleight of hand. All of this,
Heresy.
like all these reasons.
You said
You
you're
have
Serbian, right?
yes.
Yeah. Did you notice in my presentation one of those things was entering a synagogue of Jews to pray? Did you notice it was Patriarch Irenae who was lighting the
Yeah, the
menorah
reposed
there?
patriarch Irenae. I actually did.
Died of
I wasn't
COVID.
here at the intro. I
Justice of
literally
God.
tuned in towards
Anyway,
the
the
end.
point is, Irenae was also a very famous ecumenist for a lot of reasons, but he did happen to go into a Jewish synagogue, which is literally condemned by the canons. And again,
Yeah,
he
I
did that
think
'cause he
that's
loved
horrible.
ecumenism,
And
which is a
obviously, I'd want.
heresy. That's heresy.
Yeah, that if it's even heresy, if not worse, but that's not my misgiving.
Don't change it.
You
It's
said
heresy.
You said heresy.
I said heresy, but something possibly even worse, right?
You're
Like
trying to
celebrating with
broaden the
Jews
terms
who aren't even
again.
Christian. That's something else, right?
Yeah, that's
But I'm
ecumenism.
talking about.
That's ecumenism.
I'm talking about yes. These kinds of things are scandalous. None of our
Yeah.
bishops, as said, if I could change it, I would,
But you
and that's why I
can't,
believe, like
because
my
you're
brother
not a
here,
bishop.
Resident Sleeper, has said, we're supposed to
And-
pray and change the church from within.
Right, and none of you are bishops, so none of you can change jack.
So it all falls on the bishop.
That's correct. They're the ones
The
who are
church
supposed
is the
to-
bishop.
The church, the bishop is the icon of Christ.
The bishop is
I
in
gotta
the
give you
seat of
that.
Christ as the high priest to the church.
read St. Ignatius. The point is the bishop is the central icon. He's the central focus of communion. Yes, the bishop is central to the church's authority. And if it was anyone but a true Orthodox telling you that, you'd know I'm right. You'd admit it. You'd proclaim it. But because it's me, you are saying, oh,
I
well,
don't
no,
have
no, we
anything
don't care.
against
We
you.
call the
I was trying to go in
point
before
is
you
here.
went on a spiel.
But
The
here's the thing. Bishops are important.
the reasons you find our bishops lacking
Mhm.
to put it very, very lightly,
Lacking?
as said, you call them heretics. That's fine.
Lacking?
The
What are they
reason,
lacking
as
in? Orthodoxy?
listen, right? Like, don't like sputter off immediately. I'm just trying to have a dialogue with you. I'm not even trying to have like a super serious debate. I'm saying the reasons, like your ethic, your ethos behind trying to fight heresy and ecumenism and all these things that are poison upon the church, because heresy is delusion, and delusion will take you straight down there. But you could be 100% right. And for the most part, as said, like, the true Orthodox people I know are all upstanding, what I would call Christians, Orthodox Christians.
So you'd call them Orthodox.
Schism is a serious problem also of sin. It's a total lack of charity, because the way you change the church, and the church has had many heresies that have lasted centuries, it's gone through all of it because of Christ's promise, is by changing it from within, praying, number one, a life of prayer.
Wrong.
Okay, sure. I mean, we could LARP and say, like, who's got the cooler bishop, who's gonna have like the ultimate patriarch that's gonna slam dunk Patriarch Bart in Turkey right now. But that, as said, that's not reality, right?
Right. Reality is we have to accept Roman Catholics as first in the taxes, and we have to accept Monophysite communion.
Let me ask: do you think I really believe those things?
Doesn't matter if you're in communion with them. You do.
That's Donatism. Okay,
no,
that's Donatism.
Literally not.
Even if my patriarch himself, who's a new patriarch,
off,
right?
No, it's not Donatism.
Don't by definition.
Don't give false definitions.
It's not it's literally Donatism is a metaphysical problem.
Donatism is a heresy about sin, not about heresy.
And they schismed from the church because the church had to have a conciliar condemnation in order to act upon that heresy. Just like the church needs a conciliar condemnation to deal with ecumenism and Sergianism, right?
Okay, did you catch my thing with Resident Sleeper, the part where I made him read that text he didn't want to read, where it said before conciliar condemnation?
It proved you wrong. You have no reason to leave the church from that canon.
It literally says that if you leave a heretical bishop, you are not in schism. You are rescuing the church from schism. You literally read that.
Leave immediately in that canon.
It doesn't, but I said I didn't say we didn't leave immediately.
You're extrapolating from Canon 15 that if a bishop preaches heresy, by the way, as said, then we all have to be laser-eyed hawks, and this is not something you could do until the age of the internet, which is why a lot of the whole true Orthodox churches community and how they function, all their ecclesiology is waiting to see some patriarch or some bishop say something absolutely ridiculous, saying these guys are out of grace, you have to join our church now.
Wait,
because if Bart does something,
you're talking to a guy who literally ran an ecumenical news website for the past 19 years, and you think I'm supposed to say, oh, like, we're just waiting for the patriarch to say something heretical? Buddy, they say heretical things every week.
Because, as said, if you take the whole of Orthodoxy, which is around 500 million people, if not more, like 500 million people who are Orthodox Christians, 500 million people who are Orthodox Christians in this world, and all the bishops who have to preside over all the jurisdictions all around the world, and then you find some freaking bishop from Zimbabwe who says, yeah, maybe Roman Catholics don't immediately go to hell. And like he's just without grace, right?
Okay,
like that is Orthodox Christianity, as I'm supposed to understand.
Okay, so first off, you doubled the size of global Orthodoxy. You kept saying $500 million over and over, and it was 275 million. More importantly,
You
you think
focus
we're
on numbers,
you
but you
think we're
never
you
provide
think
them.
we're secretly you think we're secretly looking for some bishop to say something heretical when they literally say heretical things all the time, and then you guys contort yourselves into knots, desperately telling yourselves, "But we're still the church,"
Yes,
because your
because the
heretical bishop,
Donatist
Donat,
metaphysic, the ethos of Donatism is
Donatism's
to
about
sit
sin.
around waiting for somebody to say something scandalous or what you perceive as
Donatism is
scandalous
about sin.
and
We're
say
talking
these
about
people are
heresy.
without grace because one bishop is not making like bringing out guns and saying we have to hold a council to condemn this immediately, that world orthodoxy has lost grace.
All right, caller, I'm
Once
sorry.
again,
I do appreciate the call in, but I've let
Yeah.
this one go on for quite some time,
Yeah.
and there are a bunch of callers right behind you. So thank you very much, MM. Have yourself a wonderful day.
No problem. Have a great day, guys.
Take care, ma'am. Maximus C, you've been waiting patiently. Go ahead with your question, please.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So I kind of wanted to get to some of the finer points that I think the subject deserves overall. So I wanted to go back to the Militian schism since it was mentioned, I think, by Deacon Suaidan. And basically, the background, from what I understand, what was going on with the church there. So you already had the Nicaea Council that took place. Arianism was condemned. But during the period that was around the Second Ecumenical Council, you still had lots of Arians within the sees of the church, within the bishoprics and so forth. The Meletian schism, in particular, if I'm not mistaken, was basically you had Paul of Antioch, who was supported by the Pope of Rome, Saint Jerome, among others, and you had Saint Meletius of Antioch, which was actually the one who presided in the Second Ecumenical Council, if I'm not mistaken, and was the one confirmed to be the actual Patriarch of Antioch. So what I see in that period is that despite the fact that the First Ecumenical Council had already taken place, it seems to me that at that time, people in the church wasn't so sure about the status of that confession of faith as we today are now, looking back retroactively, historically at that. And that's why, if I'm not mistaken, you had very bizarre scenarios in which you had Orthodox patriarchs being voted both by Arians and Orthodox participating in the same voting process. So things were muddied, right? So that's one of the presuppositions I wanted to assert first. And yeah, before that, do you want to comment on that, Deacon Sweden?
yeah. Actually, first off, just for a clarification, you have to realize that there were three parties, or actually four, and two, at more than two or more were Orthodox. But the Meletian party, which allowed that and then eventually outlawed the heresy, was considered an Arianizing party, which is why the party of Paulinus of Antioch, which was supported by Rome, actually considered Saint Meletius to be a sneaky heretic. And so the point is, you had two rival patriarchs of Antioch, and then we get to Lucifer of Cagliari, who didn't even recognize the Meletians, or I think at one point the Paulinians, and it got to the point where literally people were rebaptizing their each other's followers because they didn't trust each other as heretics. And so when the Second Ecumenical Council occurred, believe it or not, Saint Meletius led the council, but the Pope didn't recognize Saint Meletius, and it wasn't until decades later that that was
Yeah.
finally fixed.
Yeah. And I think this leads first to my actual questions.
Sure.
So in general terms, then we can discuss this specifically in terms of ecumenism. In general terms, if you have a heretic and he was not yet judged by a synod, he had not been he has not been through an ecclesiastical court. Let's say it's a bishop, to simplify it. Does he have grace before a condemnation
Uh,
by because this is very important for this debate and it has not been addressed at all.
right. Okay. Yeah. I think that that's a very fair question. I'm going to add that the Orthodox presupposition is that the church has always known her own faith. You cannot operate a proper belief system, if we do not believe that the Holy Spirit came down upon the apostles and that the apostles handed down that faith to their successors, that the Council of Nicaea was confirming the Orthodox faith, not discovering the Orthodox faith, then we can now move to the Second Ecumenical Council where you have the Orthodox party clearly speaking out. Now, if someone speaks a heresy, the church knows in advance, even if she can't immediately address it. This is kind of what happened with the heresy of ecumenism. It became kind of tricky to even figure out how to. It became tricky to figure out how to. How to deal with it because it was coming from so many angles. It's global syncretism, so of course it's not easy for the church to deal with. So that's what I would say. I would say that somebody who is an active heretic is already condemned by God, even if he's not condemned by council. So
And,
if that makes
and
sense.
I appreciate that call in. We got a bunch of callers stacked behind you, though, so I'm going to have to move along. But thank you so much, and have
No
yourself a
worries.
wonderful evening.
Christ is
You-
risen. Bye.
All right. Snecky, you've been waiting patiently in the background. Go ahead when you're ready.
Oh, hello. So, what standard would you ascribe for what's true Orthodox versus what us fake Orthodox are?
Well, I don't like using the term fake Orthodox. That was actually something started by David Urhan that I just picked up on. But the simple reality is the truth is always the same. The canons and councils, the writings of the fathers, the teachings of the church throughout the past 2,000 years since Pentecost.
So, where would the Eastern Orthodox and the true Orthodox differ that would justify the schism?
Well, again, this is first off, I don't know how you learned about true Orthodox, etc., but the question that you're asking presupposes the idea that there are these distinct bodies when that's not how Orthodoxy works. Orthodoxy, as you know, is decentralized. So there's different factions of the true Orthodox of Greece. There's the true Orthodox of Russia, the true Orthodox of Serbia, the true Orthodox of Bulgaria, just like there's the World Orthodox of Russia, the World Orthodox of Serbia. And as you know, like in World Orthodoxy, getting them to agree on anything is like herding cats. But the point is, when it comes to the confession of faith, in this, true Orthodox are all united. We all hold to the same councils. We all hold to the same teachings, and we all hold to the same fathers, saints, and so on. And but we're not monoliths. Just like Roman Catholicism is not a monolith. Roman Catholicism is a monolith, whereas World Orthodoxy is not. So the question is there's no like World Orthodox team and True Orthodox team. It's individuals and individual bishops and so on and so forth. As I mentioned earlier, with the numbers on the TOC of Greece, the Moscow Patriarchate recently they tried to reach out to the largest of the True Orthodox synods. That would be the GOC Kalinikos, and from what we understand from inside sources, it didn't go well because, frankly, they were still not ready to let go of ecumenism. So yeah, that's. I hope that answers the question. I'm sorry if it doesn't.
Okay, I see. So, as for communion between true Orthodox groups, does it work similarly in the way of Eastern Orthodoxy?
Pretty much. It depends on whether the groups are in formal communion. Certain groups do things differently. For example, I know that with the larger groups like the GOC Kalinikos or the ROAC, etc., they're generally more open because everyone kind of knows everyone and where everyone comes from in a locality. So it's less of an issue. Some groups, like, for example, certain Matthewite groups, will take a stricter position and they'll ask that you kind of repent of your wrongdoing and leaving their parish or whatever. And they may ask to chrismate you or even just confess you. But it just depends on the parish, and it also depends on the priest. This is true, unfortunately, in World Orthodoxy as well. The priest kind of can just have his own rule. There's no set rule in that, and that's unfortunately still true in True Orthodoxy. We don't have a uniform answer either.
All right, caller, thank you so much for that call in. I really appreciate it. I have to move on to the other callers. Have yourself a wonderful evening. Lemon, you've been waiting patiently in the background. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, Christe Agtiga. I have a question for Joseph Suaidan. I'm a former Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, you can probably know where I'm going with this. But
no.
let's use this example. So we know that the Archbishop of Crete, he's the head of the chair of Saint Titus.
Okay.
You agree that you believe that the calendar shouldn't have been changed, correct?
Yes.
Is that in a sense what the Latins did with the Second Vatican Council and the changing of the liturgy? This is how we get the Sede Vacantists.
No. It's not a fair comparison at all, and I'll tell you why. So if I had more time in this intro, and let me put it to you this way, I put so much preparation into this that I had way more information. But just to give you an idea of how serious this was at the time, remember that the Church of Greece changed its calendar in 1924, and I think they forced Alexandria to do it in like 1925. But here's the thing that's important. They held a synod in Vatopedi in 1930, and they were originally going to try to get early plans together for the next Great and Holy Council, which ended up becoming 2016 after many, many years. But the point is, even at that meeting in 1930, the Slavs asked for a separate place to celebrate liturgy. They could not, in conscience, celebrate with the Greeks because they were on the new calendar. And then, to make things even worse, they were so offended by the Greeks demanding that they can celebrate that they actually left. And it actually prompted St. Nikolai Volimirovich to actually go and send Chrism to the true Orthodox of Greece.
Do you believe that because of the calendar change that the bishops lost grace?
I believe that the calendar change is a violation of the traditions and canons of the church. I don't know. I can't say naturally because it would make no sense for me to say that they immediately lose grace if they use a different calendar. That would be self-defeating, because as you know, bishops returned from the new calendar. Although Metropolitan Chrysostomos actually came from retirement, returned from the new calendar within their lifetimes and returned to the old calendar and repented. So no, I don't think that that's immutable or set in stone. But I do think that when you start trying to make it the practice of the church, it is extremely problematic, and you should really ask why. And finally, just to finish on that, I suggest reading Unto the Churches of Christ Everywhere, which was the patriarchal encyclical of 1920, which began this mess. And you'll see the reason for introducing the new calendar was union with heterodox.
So, and I'm just to make this quick. So if it were the case that they lost grace because of the calendar change, which affected the liturgics of the church, if that were the case, then you could say that the see of Saint Titus is vacant.
Well, I don't know that I would. I'm pretty sure there is a Matthewite bishop of Cyprus, but that's beside the point. The point is that
what I'm trying to get at is that you can't just start making your own bishops just because you're angry with the calendar.
That's not what happened.
But I'm using this as a hypothetical.
I'm dealing with reality.
Of course you are.
Okay, caller. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the call in. I appreciate it very much. Merge, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead when you're ready.
All right, so there are a few things. I know Resident Sleeper, he thought I was going to come in and joke, but I'm actually going to be serious.
Oh.
Okay.
I was hoping.
So,
wait, can I just real quick?
Yeah.
Forgive me if I have said anything to bother you, Joseph. That wasn't my intention, and I know these debates do get contentious, but I want to ask for your forgiveness.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, here's my thing. I was Roman Catholic before I became Orthodox, and when I became Orthodox, I used to do the thing where I would just like not call clergy by their proper name if they weren't Orthodox, and I was actually pointed out that there is a rich tradition of even calling heretical monks and clergy by their titles. So I'm not offended or hurt, but I would just say in the future, when dealing with true Orthodox clergy, that it's not condemned to use a title.
In general, for anything
yeah.
that I may
No, I'm not offended at all.
I just want to. Okay, thank you.
All right, so my first question is pertaining to the councils. Now, of course, I'm in the Eastern Orthodox Church, the one, And
World Orthodox.
so, first thing that I know is that the councils, the ecumenical councils, and I don't know too much, but they were convened in order to respond to heresy, basically. So my question is, and I don't know if this was covered too much, whether like when the first, for instance, when the first ecumenical council was convened, that the bishops that that were present at the council, they were considered part of the church. Like, how was that council even like made, in a sense?
Well, first off, what you have to realize is that the reason the ecumenical councils are called ecumenical is because they're referring to the ecumenate, or to the known universe, more properly to the civilized world known as Rome and the Roman Empire. So these are known as imperial councils for a specific reason, which is that they were called by the emperor. Sometimes the bishops were dragged in by force, but they had all the effect in not only ecclesial legal proceedings but also real legal proceedings. So that's part of the reason why you will even see heretics referred to in the minutes as the honorable and God loving, because as a state function, you weren't supposed to show bias if it supposedly was unsettled. But the church did have it settled. They knew who the heretics were. Hence
So
fun
then
things
my
like Saint
question,
Nicholas slapping Arius and. Well, go ahead.
yeah. So then my question is, so Saint Constantine was the one who called the council. So he called so it is considered a church council, right? Do you consider it a church council? That
Absolutely,
was
the
convened
first
by
great
Saint
council.
Constantine. So Saint Constantine recognized those Arian bishops as bishops of the church.
I don't think St. Constantine, he called everyone in who was officially a bishop. Now, this is one thing to keep in mind, that churches under normal circumstances, and we tend to not see things this way because of our modern understandings of property. But churches would be established in areas, and if a heretic managed to take the church, the people could flee, but usually it would take a lot to get them out. They were considered the legal owner, even if they were not the Orthodox party. This is part of the reason why you read, especially not, with the Arian controversy, and also with the Nestorian controversy, of people just leaving the churches in droves. Once they saw the heretic preaching his heresy, they were just like, out, we're leaving. We're going to go find an Orthodox bishop, which is what I was telling everyone to do, because that's the basic tradition. But the point is that, so he was still legally recognized as a bishop, even if he was not recognized by the Orthodox as a bishop, and still had to be given a fair hearing if he was under accusation.
So, so it's a church council with heretics present at the council who,
correct, to
I
be
think you would
judged.
say that those bishops, even though they're legally recognized as a bishop by the state or whoever, they're not part of the church, and yet they
That
were
is
involved
correct.
in that council.
That is correct. And I think I think the minutes of the councils bear out those exact feelings.
So does that mean that councils and like
This got to be your last question, caller. Make it good.
Sorry. So if there's a church-wide council, a pan-Orthodox council, that means that we can have people from outside the church come in and decide
Be
things
judged.
with us.
Be judged is what the word you're looking for, is to be judged, because that's what happened to the heretics at the council. They were judged by the church.
Okay. All right. That's my last
All right,
question.
thank you so much for the call. Merge, have yourself a wonderful evening. Appreciate it very much. Okay. And then last caller for the night, Christopher. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead when you're ready, sir.
Wonderful. So, resident sleeper, I noticed that throughout this debate, one thing I kept noticing you doing was saying like, oh, well, like bringing up why Deacon Joseph Suaidan, his reference to Canon 15 was invalid, because you can't really use that as justification to like break immediately with no justification, right? That's what you were saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you aware of the past 100 years of all these groups called Genuine Orthodox and True Orthodox, as well as the struggle in Greece and Romania and in Russia? Because, okay, so in the case of, so you know Father Peter Hears, right? He has his whole like long, over a dozen videos covering the book and content, going into more depth of Russia's catacomb saints.
Mm-hmm.
It points out very clearly what's going on there is that there was a schism in the church. And one side of that schism was the mainland Russian church that stayed with the Soviets. And the other half, well, two other halves, sort of. One was the catacomb church in Russia, which is what the Catacomb Saints book is about. And they didn't recognize Sergius, and Sergius didn't recognize them, but it was Sergius first that declared them graceless, but that's neither here nor there. And then there's also Rokor. Are you aware that within the history of Rokor, from that lineage, there were a few things? One is that the mainland Russian church considered them graceless schismatics. We can find documents in English of St. John Maximovich, who we recognize, glorified as a saint, was referred to as a graceless schismatic because of leaving communion with the Moscow Patriarchate in the 60s. Or a bit earlier than that, but that's just random dates. And also that some Rokor bishops, and this is recorded on the Rokor Studies site, which is handled by some OCA clergy, I believe. So it's like mainstream. No one can really say that they're like trying to make a pro-true Orthodox case. That they mentioned that the some of the true Orthodox of Greece that we would call GOC Kalinikos.
Caller, you're gonna have to let him respond to some of these points at some point. So
I want to hear what the question is specifically.
The question is just, are you aware of like that history and what it would mean right now for Rokor? Because at the moment, what that history has to do with Rokor has to do with the 2007 union with the Moscow Patriarchate. Because the official stance, I understand, is that the Moscow Patriarchate and Rokor at 2007 considered Rokor prior to that union as graceless schismatics as is borne out by history.
Okay, but they were still in communion with other churches around at the time, though. They were in communion from other communion.
That is true. And very notably, they're in communion with the True Orthodox Church of Greece, who they ordained bishops for.
Okay.
Yeah. So the issue is that, like, Father Deacon, you mentioned that the very first group that you were part of, did they have their apostolic succession from that GOC Kalinikos, or was it a different?
Believe that when I was first in Hagna, they'd broken from Rokor, and they went under Archbishop Maxentius of Athens, and that's where they got their bishops from.
Okay, sure. Fair enough. So, yeah, I guess final question is, would it be fair to say that the accusation that Father Deacon Josephson, as well as other true Orthodox and genuine Orthodox, have made an immediate schism isn't fair because of the past 100 years of not only state persecution, but also the hierarchs of both sides of the schism trying to come to an agreement over it, and the agreements being settled mostly with state police intervention?
Is it fair for him to say that his schism is?
No. Is it fair for you to say?
Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay, is it fair for you to say that his schism is a knee-jerk reaction when we have all of this history of the hierarchs trying to solve the issues that cause the schisms, but the schisms being pushed into effect through state police intervention?
I don't think that you can blame the hierarchs for state police intervention, though.
That's exactly what happened with Patriarch Sergius with the 2020,
but there was
1927 declaration.
There was also proto-Sergianism at the time of Saint Peter, the Great Devil.
That's not relevant. What's relevant right now is the recent true Orthodox history.
So it was only until recent history that it became an issue. But when it was existing previously, it wasn't.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we should focus on the history that we both agree on and have recorded documentation of, like in Russia's Catacomb Saints that Father Rose compiled and which Father Peter Hears did a whole large series of. Okay. And in that one, Patriarch Sergius's declaration specifically said that the joys and sorrows of the Orthodox Church were the same as the Soviet state, and confirmed with the KGB that if any bishop did not agree with that declaration, they were enemies of the state.
Yeah,
And what did that mean in Soviet Russia? That meant you got sent to the gulags or shot.
Sergianism was also condemned a
Yeah,
heresy.
can I want to
hang on before you do, and I'll give you an opportunity. I wanted to thank the caller for the call in and wish him a wonderful evening.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Have a good night. Didn't mean to cut you off there, but
No,
have
it's
a good
okay.
night. Go
I
ahead, Joseph.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the argument of the argument of proto-Sergianism, usually it has its origins in communist writers who are going off on the Tsars. I want to simply state that I love and venerate the memory of the Orthodox Tsars, and I would love to see an Orthodox king arise who's truly Orthodox in Russia everywhere if possible. And that's my feeling. So no, it wasn't. I don't want to get into a protracted theological argument. I was just saying, look at where you get your accusations from.
I'm wondering what historian you're using for this.
Uh, you want me to get? I mean, if you'd like, I can come back and get a list for you, like a reading list. But the point is,
which historian are you using for your Russian history? Is what I'm curious about.
well, I'm not the one saying that there was such thing as proto-Sergianism. I don't believe there was.
Okay, but what?
I think it's an invented term.
Okay, but what historian are you using for your Russian? You know what? Send it to me in private chat or some other time.
We actually need to move into the final part of the show and get to the super chats, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I know that it can be grueling once you get past that 2-hour mark, but we're almost finished, I promise. Starting with $5 comes in from Orthodox Armenian. Says absolutely nothing, just showing some support for the channel. Appreciate that very much. $5 comes in from Wicked Wally. He says, I settled this hours ago, but just liked everyone arguing for my own entertainment. I asked my Google machine where the Orthodox Church is, and it turns out it's a few towns over from here. Debate over. Have a wonderful night. Okay. Fair enough, Wicked Wally. $10 comes in from Saved by the Word. He said, I didn't realize Rob Knorr had an Orthodox older brother. In all seriousness, as someone who's looking to join the church, what criteria should I use to decide amongst the alleged schismatics?
What criteria should you use to decide amongst alleged schismatics?
Yes.
I think that's more of a question for Mr. Suaidan. Oh, I'm sorry, Joseph, forgive me.
That's fine. If you're asking what criteria you should use, I say it's very simple. Go to the closest church you can find. If you have no ability, no internet to click on my profile in Gab and take a look at different national websites, it's as if, in many towns, like in New York City, for example, there are at least 8 different true Orthodox churches which have their cathedral see or something like that in the New York area. It's the same thing. There's dozens of World Orthodox churches too. I'm not really the guy to tell you should go there. You want to do your own research and find what's close to you. And again, I'm not going to tell anyone. And I've told most of this audience, that they made it 99% of the way. But the second you start hearing things that the church fathers teach against, then it's time to go a little deeper and find us.
Okay. $5 comes in from Melaforda. Says, Mr. Suaidan, do you know you pronounce schism wrong?
No, I've always heard it as schism or schism. I've heard it both ways, actually.
Okay. $5 comes in from Well Emmanuel. He says, Resident Sleeper, I know you're not clergy, but what is the threshold or how many years with no synod and council would you say is okay to wait until it's decided that they can't be corrected from within? And that's actually a really good question because there was a lot of contention around this debate, around this very issue. I felt like the last caller kind of framed it incorrectly. He was saying, look, according to this particular teaching, over the last 100 years, you could apply it that way, this type of thing. But I think that the ultimate criticism from Sleeper at that portion of the debate was how long it took Joseph before he moved off of that, which I think is a fair enough case both ways. But this particular question kind of answers to the greater point that they're talking about, which is how long should you wait if you think that Joseph should have waited longer, for instance, right? This is the question.
I think the issue is that's assuming the Holy Spirit isn't going to protect the church, so it would mean to leave it. It doesn't make sense to me. So I can't give a should or a specific amount of time. I can't, because it's assuming that the Holy Spirit wouldn't protect the church. I think that's a fair answer.
So you don't actually have a time.
I can't give a time. If they would say, like, if I gave a specific time, it would be like saying the Holy Spirit can't protect the church, we must leave.
So in other words, there's no time.
It took 300 years for Catholic. You disagree with that, but it took
Yeah, your
300 years
history's
for
wrong.
filioque. Okay.
But I mean, it kind of have to necessarily be arbitrary to a
Yeah,
degree.
we just don't, right. It's the situation is ultimately what it comes down to. Like what I think the caller meant, the last caller, is he's referring to the fact that when Sergius made his declaration in 1927, immediately the catacomb church broke off from him. So this was like by 1928, St. Joseph of Petrograd was busy organizing underground parishes. They didn't wait a year. Because as soon as they heard it, they were like, "That's satanic. Get away from it."
They were told to go underground though previously from who was it?
They were told to go underground by St. Deacon because of the
Saint
Living
Deacon.
Church. Yeah, because of the Living Church movement, which was the predecessor to the Moscow Patriarchate, and for that that can easily be shown because I don't know. I'm originally a New Yorker, and in New York, there's this big cathedral called St. Nicholas on 97th Street. And it was actually owned by the Russian Empire. And so what happened was when there's actually a famous lawsuit, you can look it up. It's called the Kudrovsky lawsuit because one of these living church bishops, they allowed married bishops, all sorts of crazy, crazy stuff the living church allowed. And one of them, Benjamin Kudrovsky, was sent by Moscow, the living church, to handle the cathedral. And so the people tried to sue. They were like, "That's a false bishop." But he was recognized by Patriarch Sergius. So in that, you see that the living church bishop, who was a renovationist bishop, was actually recognized by Patriarch Sergius as well. So my point is that there's a continuity between those who are truly following the faith and those who are apostatizing from it.
Can I ask you a quick question before we begin the wrap up here that I was just curious about? I've thought about this quite a bit because I think it's a really complex subject. I remember when I was at the Orthodox Montanica, the question was asked of a metropolitan who was there, and this was in regards to the lockdown, and he was saying, there's a lot of us who disagree with what these kind of different church leaders are saying on this topic and this kind of thing. What do we do though? Should we stay and then just kind of hope that he corrects himself, or what should we do? And the metropolitan said, you should vote with your feet. He said you should vote with your feet, and that's how you deal with the issue. I thought that was a good answer because really the only answer, right, when you think about it.
Mhm.
But they kind of dove into a different question that I had rattling around in my brain, which is, if you do have kind of these schisms which happen, and you vote with your feet too much, and you just say, we as the clergy have decided that, you're no longer worthy, or the institution has failed, or this type of thing. How long before you get enough members before there's a schism from there, and then a schism from there, and it becomes kind of this ongoing thing where we end up with, something around 40 different, what are considered legitimate factions, like in Protestantism? That seems like it's unavoidable if you have too much of that, isn't it?
You could view it that way. I mean, I don't, and I'm going to explain why. First off, the one thing that every single true Orthodox grouping you deal with, they all have identical beliefs. Protestants do not have identical beliefs. But also, more importantly, it can't just be a council of priests that just separate off. That's a council, but that's a church that can't reproduce itself. It's like the old believers. The point is, you have to go under a right believing bishop. Having lived through true Orthodox experience for the better part of 20 years, uh, I used to say, and I still say on my show, It was a lot worse 20 years ago because back then nobody was in community. The internet was still new. Nobody was talking to each other. Everyone was distrusting of the other person. That's not the case now. There's a famous case, and I've brought this up. The Kalinico Synod and the Macarian Synod are two Archbishop Synods of Athens. They sued over the same building on Coningo Street. Both of them tried to get it, and the court decided one was going to live on the top floor and the other one was going to rule from the bottom floor. This is a real story. This is how it's actually set up there. And 20 years ago, they were literally hurling anathemas at each other from the staircase. Like literally just like anathema on you and back and forth, anathema on you, but the point is now 20 years later, they meet for coffee on great feasts. It's not the same. And sometimes you have to be forced into the reality that the people you're dealing with aren't always going to be schismatics and heretics. And you have to act like Christians. I hope that
Yeah,
helps.
well, I mean, I'm a big fan of talking to opposition and people who disagree with me. I
Fair.
mean, that's why I've had a debate show for a couple years, right? And it'll continue. And I think that it's one of the single most important things that we can really do, not just to really understand the other side, but to also know why maybe some of them have evil ontologies, or they have evil epistemology, or they just have evil things that they do. Sometimes that's important too. But I think you make a good point that dialogue is necessary, and if there's going to be reconciliation, how do you have it without that? I don't think it's possible. So I do appreciate you coming on this evening, whether I agree with you or disagree with you, to have such a dialogue. And again, to Resident Sleeper, he may be a dirty vampire who's dressed up to go out to the Roxbury tonight, but he's our dirty vampire who's dressed up to go to the Roxbury tonight. So why don't you guys take just a quick minute? We'll start with you, Joseph. Shout out any social media that you'd like people to go to where they can find you.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's the NFTU Apologetics channel that's on YouTube. It's also on Odyssey. Our website, nftu.net, where we report on stories that have to do with true orthodoxy and have to do with ecumenism. It's the stuff we've been doing for years. Again, if you go to my Gab, which is linked in the debate, and you look at my page there, you'll see that there's a website with a hashtag that says True Orthodox Churches. If you click the hashtag, you can see all the True Orthodox churches that I know of around the world that have active websites, and learn more about them and realize that we're not a bunch of people who live in a closet, and we didn't do this because we hate you. We did this because we love the faith.
All right.
That's
Thanks
it.
so much. Resident Sleeper, go ahead.
You can find me on Instagram at Real Resident Sleeper, and Andrew is a filthy half breed.
It's true. Half Irish and English. I am in perpetual conflict with doing the right thing, but whether I should do it drunk or not's the problem. Anyway, gentlemen, have yourselves a wonderful evening. I'm going to let you both get out of here. Remember, next Wednesday, we have Mouthy Infidel. He's going up against Lavloon. That's going to be excellent. We have a series of excellent debates actually coming up. We have Alex PWFs going up against our own base Fatty Chad. That's going to be awesome as well. And don't forget, Super Show. We've got a Super Show coming. I've always taken the time to really make sure I prep right, and I've backed them off before. This is no different. I was going to do it earlier in the week, but as I come across more shit, I have to make more bits. And when I make more bits, I start making other bits. And then I just, it just takes a while for me to get it where I want it before I do the show. So appreciate it very much. And from all of us here at the Crucible, to all of you out there in Crucible Land, have a wonderful night.